fourth quarter and nearly came away with what would have been just an incredible upset. But Miami, are they back? If you're of a certain age, if you're a Gen Xer like myself, you probably remember Miami as the preeminent college football program in the country once upon a time in the 90s into the 2000s. But it's been about 25 years. Here or there they've had a decent team, but ultimately they have not been where they are now in quite some time. So fun times for Mario Cristobal and the Miami Hurricanes, as 10 days from today, they will play in the national championship in their backyard at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida. Who will the opponent be? The Indiana Hoosiers have played nearly flawless football all year long, but the Oregon Ducks looking to bounce back. I should say offer a little payback after the only loss of the year for Oregon is at Autzen against Indiana a number of weeks ago. So a lot of college football storylines on the show today. Of course, the latest in the transfer portal, there is some news for Ute fans that is not great, and we'll go over all of it today. There's some news for BYU fans, actually, that's a little bit better. But Coach Witt is going to grab a couple of more Ute players to follow him to Ann Arbor. And ultimately, we'll keep you up to date on all of the transfer portal news, give you everything that comes our way today on the show. The Utah Jazz got a win last night against the Dallas Mavericks. Cooper Flagg and the Dallas Mavericks. Jazz were without Yusuf Nurkic and Ace Bailey, but they were able to get a win over the Mavs. And are you excited about that? It depends on what side of the Jazz fandom you find yourselves on, because the Jazz and the Mavericks essentially are right next to each other when it comes to this weird thing we do now in pro basketball, the race for lottery odds. The Memphis Grizzlies are apparently listening to offers for Ja Morant, a distressed asset if there ever was one. Trae Young is a Washington Wizard. The NBA trade deadline comes and goes on February the 5th. Will the Utah Jazz get involved? Busy night in the NBA tonight as well. And then, of course, really excited for this weekend in the NFL. We do this debate this time of year. Which NFL playoff weekend is your favorite? And sometimes I honestly think it might be the wild card, only because there are just more games. A lot of people love the divisional round. But we've got two games on Saturday, Rams-Panthers. We've got Packers and Bears, a good rivalry playoff style there. Then on Sunday, it's Bills-Jags, Niners-Eagles, Chargers-Patriots. And we will finish our pro football weekend with a Monday night tilt between the Texans and the Steelers. And the money on that game, by the way, is going towards the Steelers, which is pretty interesting. So, a lot to do on the show. Busy program today. Happy Friday to you. Hopefully you're enjoying yourself. And we are out and about today, once again with our friends at Beer Bar. We're here pretty consistently throughout the course of the early portion of the college football season, but it's been a minute since we've been able to come hang out with them. These guys are the best. Rich, Duncan, of course, Nick Raimondo, Ty Burrell. Ran into Ty Burrell doing a little Christmas shopping, if I could name drop right out of the show. Right downtown, the construction that probably scared you away from 2nd South is now over. It's 161 East, 200 South here in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah. And we are giving away tickets for the Utah BYU basketball game, if you're brave enough to go to that thing. Text HOOP right now to 33986. That's HOOP to 33986 for your chance to win tickets to see the Utes take on BYU at the Huntsman Center coming up tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. I haven't checked the line. My guess is BYU's favored by 79.5. BYU a top 10 team, and Alex Jensen rebuilding Utah basketball brick by brick. But, yeah, tomorrow night, Huntsman Center, 8 o'clock, BYU rolls in town. And if you don't have anything going on, I would kind of actually beg you and plead you to go up there, because in my head I'm picturing a lot of BYU blue and not a ton of Utah red, and it's going to be a tough ask for this young Utah basketball team to keep this thing close. But we're inching closer and closer to the end of college and pro football, so we'll start to kind of lean into our coverage of college basketball and the NBA a little bit more. All right, so come on down to Beer Bar. Love to see you guys today. Grab a brat. They've got a brand new menu that features the cotton bottom garlic burger. They've got a breakfast sandwich that they serve all day, turkey sandwich, French dip sandwich, pastrami sandwich, fresh salads, and, of course, known for their brats and their fries, and obviously it's named Beer Bar, so if you enjoy beer, you can find that here. If you don't necessarily imbibe that way, they've got, everything else that does not have alcohol in it. Come on down, 161 East, 200 South, right in the heart of downtown Salt Lake City, Utah on this January Friday afternoon. All right, good guest list today. Start things off with Rojo Robert Johnson. Former Utah safety, good friend of the show, stays very connected to the Utah football program. We have not had Rojo on since Morgan Scalley was introduced as the 24th head coach in Utah football history. Of course, Coach Witt now resides in Ann Arbor. A bevy of different Utah players looks like they are going to follow him. So we'll bring in Robert today and see what he has to say about the latest as it pertains to the world of college football, namely the University of Utah. Howard Beck, NBA Daily Assist style, the hippest NBA writer out there. Howard's going to roll by today. We'll talk some NBA trade deadline. We'll talk some big picture NBA. We will talk some Utah Jazz, of course. And, we'll kind of bounce around today with Howard Beck. The PGA Tour has released their early schedule, so it's never a bad time to talk golf. I know you guys are thirsty for golf this time of year, right? Paul Pugmire stops by for his semi-consistent hit as we are inching closer and closer into the PGA Tour 2026 slate. And a couple of new events we'll tell you about today, and we'll get the latest on the world of local golf as well with Paul Pugmire. And then live on site, if you've never had a chance to meet the legend himself, Dr. Chris Hill, former athletic director at the University of Utah. Dr. Hill's going to stop by live on site. We'll call that about 4 o'clock, and he's going to join us for about an hour. So I'm excited to get Dr. Hill's take on the changing landscape of Utah athletics, namely the football program, and his confidence that Alex Jensen can get this thing going in the right direction as BYU rolls up to the Huntsman Center tomorrow. So a lot to do on a Friday afternoon. Robert Johnson, Howard Beck, Paul Pugmire, Dr. Chris Hill, me, Spence Checketts, live today, downtown Salt Lake City, Utah at Beer Bar, 161 East, 200 South. Here in Salt Lake, brand new menu. Come on down and say hi. Get your weekend started. You know what? Leave work right now. Just get up and leave. Like Spence told me I could go to Beer Bar, grab a sandwich and a soda or a pop, whatever you want to do. Just come on down. Get started here at Beer Bar. It is Friday, so celebrate. 161 East, 200 South. And just a couple of blocks away from where we're broadcasting today is Porter Larson, who produces this show. All right, so flat tire this morning. Just chaos for your boy this morning. How handy are you in that situation? You pop a flat, you have a spare. Give me a time frame as to when you get us back on the road.
Oh, that's a pit stop, my brother.
Okay.
5 minutes, 10
5
minutes.
minutes? Stop it.
I got you going. Now, here's the deal. If we got the spare, we got all the parts, it's quick and easy. Got the jack, you're good. If you got to do a patch or something, we got a project on our hands. But, dude, I'll even stop and help if someone's sitting on the side of the road with a flat tire. I got that thing in the bag.
You're not going to Good Samaritan. Don't lie.
I've done that, I will say, at least a half dozen times.
You have stopped to help a wary traveler on the side of the road that could not change a tire themselves.
I have. I like doing that.
I just have this sixth sense in my body that you are lying to me, young man.
Well, that's maybe a projection, Spencer.
Okay, it probably is. Now, the problem is I did not have a spare, so I had to. I was fortunate. I'm not going to say the name of the shop on air because they completely screwed me. But that's the name of that's the game because I essentially just was fortunate to take a couple left-hand turns and roll into this place. And I had no choice. I had to let them fix it.
Right.
Like, what was I going to do? Like, the only other choice is to call a tow truck, and that's $250 to get you to your preferred spot where you're going to pay $100 for a tire anyway. So I was screwed. They took advantage of me. I paid way too much money and got on my way, but it took me about 3 hours to get that done today.
Yeah, never fun. I will say, usually I'm prepared for this situation, but my last car had what they call in the industry, air quotes here, run flat tires. Yeah, those things don't run when they're like punctured or a blowout happens, right? So I've been in that situation where you're at the mercy of nameless tire companies because that's the closest one to you.
And they knew they had me by the you-know-what, and I just smiled, paid my way too expensive bill, and just took off. Did you watch that college football game last night?
Of course. Dialed in.
It's awesome.
One of the better college football games we've seen in some time, and that is saying something. And the SEC's out of the college football playoff, even though, of course, they deserve like 12 auto bids. That's maybe the best part of this to me, and I would, out of the SEC teams there, Ole Miss would have been the one that I would have rathered. That's maybe my favorite part about this year's college football playoff is that we have now several teams that I would be perfectly fine with winning a national championship. That is not usually the case.
Yep, for the third straight year, the SEC will have nothing to say about who holds college football's highest prize and highest trophy. All right, our first guest on a Friday afternoon here at Beer Bar will be Robert Johnson, one of our favorites to talk Utah football with. But before Rojo stops by, courtesy of our good friends, your good friends too at Prize Picks, it is time now for your opening tip.
Welcome to The Drive with Spence Checketts on Utah's #1 sports talk. Now into the studios of ESPN 700 to set the scene for the show. The opening tip of The Drive is brought to you by Prize Picks. Use the code ESPN 700 and run your game with Prize Picks.
All right, max discount alert, kids. For those of you that have not taken advantage of the free money from Prize Picks just yet, well, it's your lucky day because we have a special max discount live on the board right now. Caleb Williams has been discounted to only needing to go for more than half a passing yard during the Bears-Packers game on Saturday. Just 1 yard for Caleb. My guess is he's going to get that. All you have to do is add one other player to your lineup, and if your picks hit, you can cash in. So there you go. Bottom line is they've got a couple of different options for you guys right now with some new features. Early payouts is really cool. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may now have the option just to cash out the winnings before the game even finishes. You can follow other players as well directly on the app. Copy their lineups in one click. Whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner, or just someone whose pick you like, hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on Prize Picks. Step number 1 is you download the Prize Picks app today. You use the promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups. After you play your first $5 lineup, promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups. After you play your first $5 lineup, because on Prize Picks it is good to be right. All right, don't forget, we are your home of the college football playoffs, and we have one national championship team in the mix already. 10 days from now, the Miami Hurricanes will be playing for the national championship in their backyard after surviving against the Ole Miss Rebels last night, 31-27. This was a really odd game because Miami had the ball for 41 minutes. Ole Miss had the ball for 18 minutes. And you could tell really quickly it was the physical mismatch that we were talking about. The Quan Lacey kid, one of the best running backs in college football, had a 73-yard touchdown run. So Ole Miss goes up early, but that was just like a snapshot moment in time. That did not encapsulate the game at all. Miami was just bigger, faster, more physical. And obviously, they had their entire coaching staff, which Ole Miss certainly did not. Would have been really fun to see these Ole Miss players continue the Cinderella run after their coach left them high and dry to take the LSU gig. Trinidad Chambliss, who, by the way, was denied his waiver today to play his 6th year of college football, didn't really get going until the second half. Honestly, they needed him to be ultra extra special to hang and win that game, and he wasn't. He wasn't horrible. Carson Beck, I actually thought, was worse. Carson Beck gets the MVP. I didn't think he was that good. He didn't look very poised to throw the ball down the field. He had a couple of different snapshot moments, and obviously he accounts for 3 touchdowns and runs the game-winning touchdown in with 18 seconds left. I don't know why they were throwing him so much. He had 37 pass attempts, and the Mark Fletcher Jr. kid was running over everybody. And even Shamar Brown, their backup running back, he was getting whatever he wanted. He had a rushing touchdown as well. So Keelan Marion, the former BYU wide receiver, had himself a day with 7 catches, 114 yards and a touchdown. And Malachi Toney, who's an NFL wide receiver, man, he's a really, really talented kid. Miami, I think I read, has 42 either 4 or 5-star players. I mean, look, Ole Miss has a grip of talent. This was just a situation where Miami had their entire coaching staff, and as was discussed after the game, Miami is an interesting case study about what the modern-day college football team looks like and how you build it under a coach like Mario Cristobal. This is a team that is built more or less entirely through the transfer portal with NIL funds, and they got hot at the right time. Now, they beat Notre Dame to start the year, but they had a weird loss at home to Louisville. They had a weird loss on the road against SMU. You know, they had a couple of games down the stretch where you're kind of questioning whether or not they were legitimate and how good they were. But they run through the college football playoff. They dominated A&M. A&M only scored 3 points. Most people thought Ohio State, including Vegas, thought Ohio State was the best team in college football, left standing. Miami runs through them. And then they end a Cinderella run from Ole Miss, and now they're playing for the national championship. And as I said earlier, if you are of a certain age, then you remember the Miami Hurricanes as one of the preeminent college football programs in the land back in the 90s and, of course, early 2000s. Been a long time since Miami has been where they find themselves, and that is playing for a national championship. But it is a case study on how you can do this in the modern day and age of college football. It's no longer just going to be, Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, one of 3 or 4 teams every year. And tonight we are going to see another case study on how you can get this done really quickly, as the Indiana Hoosiers will take the field against the Oregon Ducks for a 5:30 kickoff. And you can hear that game here on ESPN 700. Kirk Cignetti took over one of, if not the most anemic, pathetic football programs in America, and now they're the Vegas favorite to win the championship in basically a one-year turnaround. Now, it's been a little longer than that, but it's basically been 1 year. Now, I don't think this is going to be as much of a butt-whooping as most people do, because I like Dan Lanning, I like Oregon. Indiana has just been so insanely clean that it's really difficult to see them making very many mistakes. But a lot of people talk about Indiana's physicality. Oregon's a physical football team. It features tonight with Mendoza as well as Moore, potentially the first 2 picks in the NFL draft that Dante Moore decides to enter the draft, which he has not done as of yet. But I think tonight's going to be a really, really good one. And, of course, last night was awesome. Hopefully tonight fits the bill. All right. We are live at Beer Bar. Real quick, before we catch a break, to bring in Robert Johnson coming up on the other side, there has been some transfer portal updates as it pertains to the University of Utah football program, a few with BYU as well. So let's focus on the names that we know that are transferring to play for Utah right now. 2 really talented young wide receivers in Kyrie Scholes and Brandon Pegan. Those are kind of the 2 gems of the transfer class. Isaiah Kemma, the freshman offensive lineman from Ohio State. Marcus Wimberly, the safety from Oklahoma, who redshirted, and he had an injury last year, didn't play. Lucas, I believe it's Samsula, defensive tackle from Wyoming. And then Ethan Day, a defensive end from North Texas. Since you and I last spoke, Jonah Lea'ea has transferred to Michigan. Now, this is one that has caught me a little bit off guard, because Morgan Scalley himself, during his introductory press conference, didn't single out very many players, but he singled out Jonah as a kid who had really, really evolved in just 1 year. He's got 3 years to play. I believe he has 3 years to play. Sophomore transfer, 34 tackles. He had a sack last year, but really came on at the end. We haven't heard anything official, unless I missed it, from J.J. Buchanan, but we are expecting that J.J. will also land in Ann Arbor. Dallas Vakalaki is headed to Penn State. Smith Snowden is making a couple of more visits, namely to Oregon and Notre Dame, before he decides where he's going to go. Te'o Johnson announced today that he is going to visit UCLA and USC, I believe, before deciding where he lands. And then John Henry Daly, this one hurts. He's going to Ann Arbor. He will play for Kyle as well. Isaac Wilson lands in Colorado, and those are kind of the most notable names that have announced their intent. I mean, some other names have announced they're coming back. We've already talked about it. Jonathan Hall, linebacker, Wayshawn Parker, Jackson Benny, Nate Ritchie, Rabbit Evans, Dylan Curtis, Creed Whittemore, Bird Ficklin. At this point, the word is he has signed, but we are still waiting official announcement style from him, as well as Devin Dampier. Cash Dillon, who's a redshirt freshman, he will be back. Nate Johnson back in the fold. Mana Cavallo, he's back in the fold. And I believe, if I remember correctly, that the Lance Holtzclaw kid announced as well. So we have a handful of kids coming back, a lot of kids leaving, and then at this point, Utah has 6 new players transferring in, and that's not even to talk about the high school and junior college signing class that we've already discussed that features Kelvin Obot, the five-star offensive tackle, who, of course, was coached by Jordan Gross in high school. Celeste Moa is thought to continue his commitment to Utah, even though there's some rumors that he was going to look to potentially go to Ann Arbor as well. So this is one of those drinking through a fire hose situation this week when it comes to the transfer portal. I mean, we're going to take a break, and then my guest is coming up on the other side. We might have some other pieces of news to announce, but this is the deal, man. This is how it goes, and I know you don't love it, but it's just the modern day and age of the way college football works. All right, we'll catch a break. We're live today here at Beer Bar. It's 161 East, 200 South here in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah. And Robert Johnson will be our first guest coming up on the other side right here on ESPN 700. All right, we have an update on how you can win some tickets to see the Utah BYU basketball game tomorrow. So I've got one pair, and here's what we're going to do. All you have to do is be present to win here at 5:30, okay? So here at 5:30, right when the game starts, by the way. So if you're looking for a place to watch the college football playoff semifinal, roll on down to Beer Bar. Okay, so the address, it's right downtown Salt Lake City, 161 East, 200 South. And that's all you have to do is come down here at 5:30, come hang out, grab a sandwich, grab a beverage of your choice. First person to walk in, give me a high five, boom. You're going to see Utah BYU tomorrow at the Huntsman Center at 8 o'clock. We're going to bring in Howard Beck today. Paul Pugmire stops by. Dr. Chris Hill live on site. Have you ever wanted to have a beer with Dr. Hill? I don't even know if he drinks, but you might as well come on down and say what's up. But on a Friday afternoon, it's always fun to catch up with one of our favorites, former Utah safety, Robert Johnson. Rojo, happy Friday, buddy. How we doing?
Hey, doing good. How y'all doing today? Because this weather is, Utah's, woo. You know, as the people say, life is lifening. I mean, I guess weather is weathering. I guess that's a new word.
Yes, it is. It is January in Utah, so, you know, we're not expecting anything other than when we got, Rojo, a cold Friday afternoon. But since you and I last spoke, a historic week this week as Morgan Scalley was introduced as the 24th head coach in Utah football history. Just give me your thoughts on how the press conference went, how the announcement went. It felt like from the Morgan perspective, it couldn't have been much better.
Yeah, I mean, it was really good. And like Coach said it, Coach was like, he done a few press conferences now where it's almost felt like this is like being a whole lot. It's like we just continue to do it. It's like I didn't already been welcoming as a head coach, but the whole press conference was really good. And that's exactly how Coach Scalley is, energy-wise. Always been the same. You see some of the answers was still the same to some of his answers because he's just that type of guy of like, you know, hey, be tough, smart guys, you know.
And that's what I wanted to ask you next. As far as, you know both of these guys. You played for both of these guys, and obviously you're part of that safety pride group. As far as what you think Morgan will just kind of carry on from Witt's tenure, what do you think that sounds like, and what do you think is going to be a little bit more uniquely Morgan?
It's kind of interesting that you asked me that because I've been getting asked that a few times, and it's hard for me to really say exactly what it is because this is something new that Coach Scalley is stepping into. And when I had him as my safeties coach, we really didn't like change the wheel or anything. It was just like, hey, this is what we've been doing. We've been doing it since I've been going to school here, so we're going to continue to do the same thing. The only biggest difference now is that he's the head guy now. So it's like, you know, sometimes I believe sometimes as a head coach, you can have your thumbprint on a couple of things, and then sometimes you hire people to do those type of jobs or to put that in. So almost like delegating, that's what he would have to do. And I don't know if that would be a good thing for him or a bad thing, but I do know that this is going to be one of those. The first year will be the year where we will kind of get a good feel of what Coach Scalley is want to do and where he wants to go with it. So it's kind of hard to really answer that complete question with a full 100% answer.
So let's talk about year one. And Rojo, we've discussed this pretty much all week. Coach Witt needed patience from fans and administration. He had a couple of 5 and 7 seasons, and the man who actually was patient was Dr. Hill, who's going to join us coming up in a little bit. Kalani Sitake had about a 3 or 4 year run at Brigham Young where a lot of BYU fans weren't thrilled with the direction, and Tom Homo was patient with him. I'm confident that Morgan will get this thing going and keep it going in a good direction. I'm not anticipating some sort of crazy dip, but I think it's probably wise just to temper some expectations only because Morgan's never been a head coach before. So let's talk about next year. At the end of next season, what would feel like a good, successful year one, in your opinion, under Morgan for Utah football?
Winning season, because that's what Utah is known for. We always have a winning season, and for the fans or for the listeners that might not know what a winning season is, it's just having more wins than losses. So if we were to go 5 and 6, that's a losing season. If we were to go 6 and 5, that's a winning season. So to me, I know I'm setting that expectation low by using those numbers, but it's just like trying to have a winning season because you don't want to I feel you don't want to step into a situation like this where we have always been a winning team. And like the year before last, it was the one time out of multiple years where it seemed like it felt like a losing year, but it kind of wasn't. We still made it to a bowl game. It was just the way that I feel like Coach Scally is going to step into this the first year. Just have a winning season. Like, just have more wins than losses. That's all we want for now, and then we'll figure everything else as we go.
Okay. So let me ask you, like, if you had a message for, and look, fans are going to fan, and Utah football has spoiled all of us, and Kyle Whittingham has spoiled all of us. So expectations are going to be sky high, and that is a testament to what has been built here. But as far as what you would say to the fan base about maybe exercising a little patience, anything you would have to say there? Or are you just like, no, let's just expect great things because that's what Utah football is?
No, you got to be patient with it because you have to remember. Keep in mind that this with some of our listeners and the fans is that last year when we had a brand new offensive coordinator, it was a lot of us, and that's including me. I was like, okay, I wonder what we're gonna do, and like what would the season look like? It's like, like now we had a brand new offensive coordinator coming in, new starting quarterback, a lot of new players, a lot of new faces. It's like we got to be patient to see where this is gonna go. And the one thing that I was very confident in was that we had Coach Witt and Coach Witt. We kept most of the same coaches, so it was like we just had one new coach come in and we can just keep it. Right now, fans, I want y'all to understand that we have brand new everybody pretty much. Like you gotta be very, very patient because the primary positions that we need the most stats from, those will be brand new coaches and they might be implementing their system. So offensive coordinator, brand new. We want to have a brand new receivers coach. Quarterback coach, I believe, is brand new. You got to be patient with how it goes because it's almost like you're putting together a Lego set. It's like you want to be finished with it 100%. It's like if I can grab one Lego and put it all together, we're done. But in this process, something that's like this, you got to remember that the pieces have to fit before it can be a good finished product. So be patient and understand there's going to be some ups and downs. I believe in my heart there's going to be some ups and downs. But you just got to be patient and always be there to support us.
All right, let me ask you this question. As of now, it's official that Jonah Le'ea is moving to Ann Arbor to play for Kyle. It's official that John Henry Daly is moving to Ann Arbor to play for Kyle. I think most people are expecting that J.J. Buchanan will wear a Michigan jersey next year. And I feel like there's some momentum that Smith Snowden will also end up there. Now, the last two are not official, and there's some other Tao Johnson's in the portal. I don't know if he's a Big Ten kid, but there's probably going to be, when the dust settles, Rojo, somewhere between 5 and 7. I'm going to put a cap on 7, but we've got a week left in the transfer portal. Somewhere between 5 and 7 players will follow Kyle to Ann Arbor. And as we know, Jason Beck has followed him. Lewis Powell has followed him. And I could keep going. Jay Hill, there's 7 or 8 coaches that have either left Utah or BYU, and probably between 5 to 7 players that have left Utah to follow Kyle to Ann Arbor. Tell me just your feelings about this dynamic.
This is a new era of college football. Money talks for a lot of the players. Those NIL deals is really important. But the way that Coach Whittingham implemented family into the University of Utah, you can see that the family is starting to divide. Where some of the players, they might have been more close to Coach Witt than they were to any of their position coaches. So, it's sad to see it this way, but I have to remember that this is the new landscape of college football. So hopefully the fans can say the same thing. It's like, it's bittersweet, but if your boss wind up being fired and a new boss comes in, you got to remember that new boss is gonna do what he needs to do to make things work. And then the old boss, he might take some of the employees with him. And I feel like Coach Witt, he didn't purposely take some of the players, but the players, as a player, you're a brand now. So you want to be in the best position to try to make it to the NFL. And maybe they feel like that's the best position to follow Coach Witt.
Do you personally have any hard feelings about how any of this has gone down, Rojo?
I mean, I don't. That's a good question. That's a good question. I don't. I'm. It's so hard to really answer that without feeling personal, and I don't want the fans to ever feel like I mean, being vulnerable right now about it it sucks. I'm not gonna sit up and lie, like, because it even though I don't go to the University of Utah, Coach Witt was a big piece of who I was, and to see him leave, it hurt. It hurt, and you have all these different conspiracies that comes up about, like, the school ran him out, things like that, and it makes you wonder about a lot of stuff. And I literally just read something that Rachel Whittingham, his niece, put together, and she tweeted it, and it said something about he gave about 30 years to the University of Utah, and this is how y'all treat him, pretty much what she said. And it hit home for me because it's hard. It's hard. That's what I would say. I don't want the fans or the listeners to get a full, honest opinion about it because it gets emotional for me. But just know that the University of Utah has always been a big piece in my life, and it changed. It shaped who I was, and Coach Witt was a huge part of it. Coach Sataki, the same way I felt when he left. It's one of those things that's going to take probably a couple of seasons for me to get used to it. So it's kind of hard to give you a real solid answer without feeling like I'm talking bad about people.
Yeah, no, and I understand that, and I appreciate your willingness to go there. I feel, and what's really tough here is when you look at the players that are leaving, and not just the players that are going to play for Kyle, but if we go over this for a little bit, Rojo, I mean, both Witt and Morgan, and look, most coaches, not just those two, believe that football is won in the trenches with your offensive and defensive line, right? And that was Kyle's calling card for a number of years, and certainly, all due respect to Devin and Wayshawn and the fact that Utah football last year had basically a 5-man unit up front that more or less played every game and every snap together, and 2 of these kids are going to be first rounders in Caleb Lomu and Spencer Fano. And when you add to that the graduations of some of the other pieces of the offensive line, then Logan is going to go into the NFL draft. They're losing Jonah Lea'ea. They're losing John Henry Daly. They have to almost rebuild the entire offense and defensive line. So, you can feel whatever way you want to feel about Kyle. You can feel whatever way you want to feel about these players leaving. And I'm never one to begrudge anybody to go get your bag. I mean, Michigan football can pay players in a way that very few programs in the country can pay players. But it just kind of goes back to my wanting to temper expectations a little bit, because if we're honest, the majority of both the offensive and the defensive line are going to have to be rebuilt almost from scratch,
Yes, yeah, and that's where the patience of, like, us fans, we have to be okay and understand, like, some of these variables was uncontrollable, and, like, the players leaving is tough. But now we got to rebuild it, and it's going to take a little bit of time. And we was blessed to have a starting O-line that was together for so long, and it showed how powerful they were. So we can definitely build back up to that because we are University of Utah. We're Utah Utes. We always figure things out. But then sometimes having that main piece that left, which is, the head, which is Coach Witt, is tough. But we always have to remember, too, that Coach Scally has always been a Utah man throughout, and he has been in the system. So he knows what it's like. He knows probably where to go find some replacements that might be better or might be comparable to the ones that's leaving.
So we're all awaiting word on – it's been interesting because Devin Dampier has kind of alluded on a number of different occasions that he has made up his mind. And I've been told by a few people around town that they think he's coming back. Somebody actually went as far as to say he's already signed. But I honestly don't know. I can't report that. I have no idea. Do you have any intel? What are you hearing around town about whether or not Devin Dampier is going to be under center for Utah next year?
I haven't even been listening to it or paying attention as much. Like I just went up there to the facility a couple of days ago just to tell Coach Scally, one-on-one without people around, congratulations and things. So it's kind of tough. I don't really know what it looks like. I just know that sometimes a lot of the players, money. What they say, get the bag. Like, get the bag is the most important piece sometimes, because I'm not saying Devin won't be an NFL quarterback. But size-wise, me just being like a scout of playing in the NFL, it might be a little bit harder for him. It might be an uphill battle. So who knows? He might want to just make a lot of money in college, so then he can, ride off in the sun like what Cam Rising did. So.
Let me ask you this, because he's playing the position you played. Jackson Benny has announced that he is coming back. And, it was interesting. Kyle last year on a number of different occasions pointed out Jackson specifically. And Kyle doesn't do that a ton. He just kept saying, Jackson Benny needs to be more involved. And so obviously Kyle really liked him. I wondered if he would jump to Michigan, but he's coming back. Since you played that position, what stands out most about the type of player he is, Rojo?
He's just a natural athlete. I talked to him at the press conference. When soon as Coach Scally got done talking, he walked over to me and just was like, Rojo. I'm like, hey, what's up? And we talked a little bit, and I was like, so what's your thoughts? Like, are you gonna go or are you gonna stay? And he kind of looked at me and just was like I think he said his agent or somebody said he can't really talk about it. And I was like, it's me. Like, you better let me know what's going on. He said, I'm definitely gonna let you know. And then when I seen it on Instagram, I shot him a DM and just was like. It was like, yo, ASS better been staying. And he sent me a message back. It just was like, yeah, he said, I want to learn some more from you. So, Jackson Benny is a great kid. My first day meeting him at the football facility, the first thing he said to me when he found out that it was me, like Robert Johnson, he was like, oh, my God, he said, I watch film with you. Just to hear a kid say something like that, that tells me enough that he wants to be good no matter what it is. And then when I seen what he did during the season, I was like, man, sky's the limit for you. And then even when he seen me at the press conference for Coach Scally, he still said the same thing. Can we watch film? Can we watch film together? He said, I just want to pick at your brain a little bit. And I was like, bro, you really don't need me to watch film the way that you're playing. But Jackson Benny is going to have an awesome year coming up, and then also an awesome career moving forward, whether it's sports or whether it's whatever it is, because his personality, the way he is, I'm like, dude, you're going to be great at life. Like, your mom and dad raised you the right way. And for him to be a person that, I think he wasn't on scholarship, if I'm not mistaken, when he first came to Utah, or it was something about where he just was unknown, I think, or something when he got there. And for him to do what he's been doing, and he's still the same person, even with some of the success, that tells me he's going to be a great person. So I love Benny, man. He's a great kid.
Let me ask you about Sharif Shaw, who, it's been kind of interesting, because even Morgan himself, during his introductory press conference, he said, you guys, you don't hear from the assistant coaches very much. And Morgan's introductory press conference, Rojo, may have been the first time that a number of Ute fans had heard from him as far as an extended introduction. I mean, he's been on my show several times. He's on Sean's show. He's done radio and he's done TV. But as far as like hearing 40 minutes of just Morgan uncensored from the hip, it was almost like a stand-up comedy routine combined with a motivational speech, which was great. It's exactly who he is. But he talked about Sharif in a way that made me a little bit more curious about what guys like you would say to the question, what Sharif Shaw means to Utah football.
And he's a big piece as well. When I was playing there, Sharif was he was doing ESPN 700.
That's right.
Sideline reporting.
That's right.
And then he was also an attorney. He was doing a little bit of attorney work or lawyer work and things like that. And man, Sharif he's one of those coaches that he don't need the limelight to do what he needs to do. He just needs to he always made sure he got the respect from us players, and we always have respect for him. And to hear Coach Scally do that, where he pointed out a lot of names of different coaches that a lot of fans and us, we don't really talk to as much. But he made it big and clear of like, hey, like, I'm not who I am without these guys. And hearing him say that, that's like, and I talked to Coach Sharif, I'm like, I want to get into coaching. So, like, I've been, like, really, like, I'm like, I need to get into it, because hearing that, it made me feel like this is why football is such a special sport. I'm not saying all the other sports suck, but because I played football, it's special enough that it's a team sport. And when you see a lot of these colleges, some of the colleges that might not be as great, sometimes you got to look at the inner part of, like, is the coaches respecting each other? Is the players understanding that this is a family? Are they doing this for money, or are they doing it because their brother on the side of them need them? So this is one of the biggest things that Coach Scally pointed out, and that's why Sharif is going to be a big, important piece. And for that big, important piece, Coach Scally rewarded him, because recently I read that he's the assistant head coach. We have a double assistant head coach, and he's one of them. which tells the story of football is an amazing sport, and you have to understand that black, white, orange, blue, whatever color you are, it really don't matter. It's about, do you want to play good? And it's about, let's do it. And then coaching-wise, do we have the same objective about helping these players? So you see that from Coach Scally and Coach Shaw. So, I wish I could be up there. I've been saying, like, I need to get up there, but it's a great feeling to see it. And Coach Shaw is a big, important piece, just like Coach Scally is. And I guarantee you that Coach Witt, even though he's with Big Blue now, he will probably say the exact same thing about all the coaches that he has had under his coaching tree.
Tell me what you know about Colton Swan, the new defensive coordinator. And, of course, Morgan, like Kalani before him, Kalani heavily influenced by Kyle, and Morgan heavily influenced by Kyle, and Colton will be heavily influenced by Morgan. It seems like it's just kind of the natural progression of a defensive scheme that has proof of concept. It probably doesn't need to be tinkered all that much, but what are you expecting the defense to look like, Rojo, under Colton Swan now?
I believe it's going to still be the same. It's going to be straight, like hard working, get it done. Because my first time meeting Colton 2 seasons ago, I didn't know him. I didn't know Coach Swan like that well. I didn't know him, and I met him, and the first thing he said was, "I know a lot about you because when I was at Weaver, I guess Coach Hill was telling him about me, and Joe Dale that I played with was telling him about me, and Coach Tram." And I was like, oh, cool. And I was still trying to fill him out. Like, I'm a player that's like, I don't trust easy. I'm like, I just trying to fill him out because I'm not playing for the U, but I'm trying to learn them. And then one of my really good friends that played here, you probably know this name, Mo Neal, that played linebacker when So I guess Mo played for him at Weber State. And I was like, okay, so Mo, tell me about him. Mo said, he a dog. That's all you need to know. And I was like, that's all I need. That's all I care about. So then ever since Mo kind of gave the approval stamp, I've been a big Coach Swan fan. So in my opinion, I think that the fans, us fans, we're not going to see too much of a big difference on defense other than Mo did tell me that he liked to sit in the house. And I'm like, well, Coach Scally liked to sit in the house. We all seen that this year. We had the most pressures being called all season, I think, from all the colleges. So I think it's going to be the exact same thing.
Rojo, before I set you loose, do you have a thought on what we could see tonight between Oregon and Indiana and who could potentially meet Miami in the national championship game?
Well, since I'm a Raiders fan, even though I played for the Tennessee Titans, I just want one of the quarterbacks to just say, like, hey, I want to be a Raider since they got the first-round pick. But no, I believe this is going to be a real shootout because when they played before, it was a really tight game. And I think because the stakes are so high, that I believe Indiana can most likely pull it off because the quarterback is such calm and relaxed, but then they also have this running back that's amazing. Like, I love their running back. Indiana has a really good running back. And I think as long as you control the ball, whichever team that can control the time, the clock, the ball, they can win the game. So there's going to be another shootout like Ole Miss and Miami last night.
Well, hopefully it's just a good game, right? That's all we want when we're watching these window games for the college football playoff. Hey, look, man, I appreciate your time today. Fun week, historic week. You have a great weekend, buddy, and we'll chat soon, okay?
Hey, thank you. You too, and go Utes.
Robert Johnson, former Ute safety, played in the NFL for a little bit, and is always good to stop by to give us his perspective on a number of different things as we broadcast live from Beer Bar today, right in the heart of downtown Salt Lake City, Utah. 161 East, 200 South. We're giving away a pair of tickets for the Utah BYU basketball game tomorrow. And here's the deal. You just have to be here at 5:30, and you have to give me a high five. Now, the first person to do that is going to get the tickets, so let's not get weird about it. And if you're looking for a place to watch this game tonight, which should be a dandy. Did I just say dandy? I am getting so old. It is Oregon and Indiana, and we're going to have that on our radio station beginning at 5:30. Porter, were you aware that Sharif Shah once upon a time was the sideline reporter for Ute games on ESPN 700?
You think I lived under a rock?
Well, I'm just saying, like, here's the deal. People need to understand that we are a launching pad to greatness, right? Like, who was your intern again?
Jalen Johnson.
So Jalen Johnson, ESPN 700 intern, all-pro defensive back in the NFL. He's made tens of millions of dollars. Sharif Shah, sideline reporter, ESPN 700. And at the time, he was also an attorney, and he used to run spots on the station, and he called himself everybody's favorite attorney. It was a great Sharif Shah spot. Morgan Scalley, radio guy once upon a time, head coach of the University of Utah. Bill Riley, director of broadcasting. What is your final chapter going to look like as we catapult you to the success?
Well, that's a good question.
Okay.
I think we should get working on that, though.
All right. John O'Connell, prize fighter, and then there's
world
just,
champ.
Yeah, and then there's just me doing afternoon drive again. Anyway, maybe at some
we're
point
sequestered over here.
Yeah, maybe at some point you and I'll find our way to the next step. However, we enjoy what we're doing, and we want to do it the best we can, and so we'll catch a break. And coming up on the other side, we'll take a little break from the football. We'll do some basketball. Howard Beck, one of the hippest NBA writers around. The PGA Tour released its schedule today, at least a number of different events. Paul Pugmire will give us his thoughts on that. And then Dr. Chris Hill live at Beer Bar. If you've ever wanted to meet the former athletic director for the U, come on by Beer Bar. He's going to be here at 4. We're going to say goodnight just a little bit early. At 5:30, we'll send you to coverage of Indiana and Oregon college football playoff semifinal. It is The Drive on a Friday. Happy Friday to you. Happy weekend to you. Good job, guys. You made it. More next on ESPN 700. Oh, we're so back. We are so back with Howard Beck on the show today because I'm bringing him in to the Airborne Toxic event, a random hipster band he dropped on me last year. And I can't remember what we played last time. We were playing something in honor of like concert tickets we were giving away. Just didn't feel like the proper intro for our guys. So Friday afternoon, Howard Beck, Airborne Toxic event. All is right in the world, is it not?
Oh, my God. That was fantastic. That was just absolutely spectacular. You guys knocked it out of the park. Great band. Everybody should go check out their stuff. I will say, with apologies, or just, just should stipulate, the lead singer, Mikhail Jolet, is a longtime Laker fan. He's an L.A. guy. So, but don't hold that against him, please.
All right, fair enough. Wrong market for that because we are anti-Laker around here. But ultimately, Howard, I did not have the opportunity last time you were on just to get like the Howard Beck Summer Concert Series. During your time off, did you see any bands that we should know about?
Oh, man, that's a good question. You know what? During the finals, I actually took advantage of the fact that Counting Crows and the Gaslight Anthem being one of my other favorite bands, and they're a Jersey band, and I have some connection there. They were playing with Counting Crows in Indianapolis during the finals, so I actually got to see them there. And then since then, I think we've seen Toad the Wet Sprocket for about the 80th time. I think that was about it. I'm probably missing something.
Toad the Wet Sprocket. Holy Gen X throwback. Yeah. Well played, sir.
Santa Barbara band, like they were based there or formed there. And my wife is a UC Santa Barbara grad, so like she's been on them since the beginning. So that's been one of our bands that we always go see.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Well, a lot to get to today, Howard. Trae Young is a liar because nobody's preferred destination is Washington, but he got what he wanted. This is like a saga 3 years in the making. So your thoughts on the trade for both sides, and does this indicate Atlanta might have something else up their sleeve?
I will just say, in Trae's partial defense, somebody, of course, conveyed the idea that he preferred Washington. It's not. None of us are obligated to run with that, but it was run with, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
Fair enough.
No, there was no market for Trae Young, and Washington, being a team that is obviously rebuilding / tanking, and that has nothing to lose, and that has had an expiring contract in CJ McCollum, who they were not going to re-sign. It gives them a free look at a guy who's been a 4-time All-Star, and maybe they keep him, maybe they re-sign him, maybe they extend him, maybe they flip him, because Michael Winger and Will Dawkins, the front office there, these guys are both Sam Presti disciples. They have been running the Wizards, I think, very smartly the last few years with an eye toward amassing assets and cap room and draft picks and everything. And Trae Young does not strike me as their kind of player. I'm a little puzzled by their acquisition in that regard. And Trae Young's got some warts, but it's a free swing for them. He's got 1 year left on a player option if he activates it after this, or maybe they extend him. We'll see what they do. But I don't know that Trae Young is the answer to the Wizards turning things around after a few years in the desert. I do think that the Hawks, very clearly, starting last summer at the latest, you could say we're ready to move on. They did not offer Trae an extension. And so the writing was on the wall, and Jalen Johnson's emergence made it that much easier to part ways, and then the Trae Young era. And then I think just the record with Trae out, which was very good, and with Trae back, which was very bad, just underscored that, yeah, we're moving in a different direction, and we're better off with a team built around Jalen Johnson, along with Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Dyson Daniels, Onyeka Okongwu. So I think the Hawks made the right move. Unfortunately, they should have done this a couple of years ago when his value was higher. They didn't get much in return, but it was still the right move because it was, their future success, I think, depended on kind of clarifying things and also loosening up their salary cap. So that leads to the next thing, which is, well, what are they now going to do with this new flexibility they have? They had been tied to Anthony Davis, but Anthony Davis reports within the last hour indicate that he's got a hand problem that could knock him out for months. So I don't know where that leaves those potential talks. I do think that the Hawks are still going to be active because by offloading Trae Young, they've freed up not just for this year but for future years some flexibility in terms of their cap. So Disappointing season for the Hawks overall so far, but we'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah, I mean, my initial reaction when the report came out that his preferred destination was Washington was, first of all, you liar. And then second of all, wondering whether or not it was just another team where he could go dominate the ball and shoot 30 shots a night and just put up numbers to get paid. I mean, that was my first reaction.
Yeah, a fair interpretation of events. But more than anything, it's that there just wasn't a market for him. No other teams poked around, but no other team made a serious offer. And so, that was a face-saving indication or face-saving kind of message to put out there. Like, you're getting traded to NBA Siberia, essentially. And what else are you going to say other than, sure, this is where I wanted to be all along? So I saw it more as that. I don't think the Wizards under Brian Keefe and this front office would want Trae Young to come in and just dominate the ball at the expense of their young guys, but he also could take the pressure off some of those guys. It's hard when you don't have, a real star to play off of, because then everybody else has to do more than they're really fit to as developing players. And so whether that's Alex Sarr, Buck Carrington, Keyshawn George, like this gives them a little bit more structure potentially with Trae Young as a centerpiece, as long as he doesn't overdo it to the expense of the young guys who need room to develop.
All right, excuse me. Once upon a time, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, when trying to figure out what the future of the Western Conference would look like, a lot of people pointed towards Memphis as a team to watch out for because of their young star, Ja Morant. And a lot of people pointed towards the Pelicans because of what we all thought at some point Zion would turn into. And now let's attack this one team and one player at a time, because the reports are Memphis is now willing to listen to offers for Ja. Now, the term distressed asset comes to mind. Memphis has won 16 games all year. They're in the 10th spot. And Ja, who at one point looked like he might become, like, honestly, legitimately the face of the NBA because of not only his, skill set, but also his must-watch, high-wire athletic ability, of course, has had just situation after situation after situation off the court come to really, pull him down as far as what his value is, and just question whether or not he takes his craft seriously. So is there, I mean, it only takes one, but we just talked about the lack of market for Trae. Is there legitimately a market that would get Memphis fair return for a player who at one point was one of the bright rising young stars in this league?
Yeah, this is another one where the timing is hurting them, right? Partially because Ja has just further eroded in the last year or two. And, even with some of the off-court stuff behind him, on the court, again, like Trae, a defensive liability and a smaller guard and a guy who's not known for defending. Like Trae, not known for doing a lot off the ball, wants the ball in his hands all the time, and is mostly making the pass that leads to the shot so he can get an assist and not necessarily, hit-ahead passes or hockey assist-type passes. And so he's got a lot of the same issues that Trae Young had, except in Ja's case, he also can't shoot. This is he's a terrible three-point shooter, and in today's NBA, that's a problem. And on top of everything else, we're in the second apron era where these guys making max salaries, if you've got that many warts, teams are going to be that much more hesitant to lock up a max slot in you. And so I wouldn't even try to guess what the Grizzlies could get for Ja Morant if he moves in the next few weeks. But given what the Trae Young return was, C.J. McCollum, good player, but veteran on an expiring contract, and a young, solid rotation guy in Kispert, I don't know that Ja Morant's getting you much more than that. Now, he's younger than Trae Young, but again, doesn't shoot, doesn't defend, and has been kind of a pain in the butt for the Grizzlies and for their coach for the last couple of coaches. So I don't know how that one resolves, Spence, but I don't think it's going to be a great outcome other than another move where it's like we're just clarifying things. We're moving in another direction. We've picked this direction, and we've decided that our former star is not part of that anymore.
All right, over to Zion. And honestly, talking about him makes me sad as a basketball fan, because there are and you know this, there are 15 to 20 game sample sizes over the course of his time in the league where when he's healthy and playing well, he's as good as anyone. And I'm not even kidding. That's not hyperbolic. The problem is can't stay healthy, also some off-court stuff. And at some point, I actually thought they might come to a breaking point with Zion sooner than this. The Pelicans just have to decide what exactly they want to do as far as how they're going to approach this. They are miserable. They're horrible. They're going to be in the mix for one of the top 3 picks. And so kind of same question. Is there a legitimate market out there for Zion Williamson where New Orleans could get, 75 cents on the dollar based off his talent?
Yeah, Zion and Ja drafted back-to-back, obviously, and they were both supposed to be faces of the league, right? And it's not working out for either of them. And for the same kind of combination of both off and on-court issues, along with health problems. The Pelicans keep putting out there, and again today, reports that they're not interested in moving off of him. They're holding on to, I think, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Derek Queen, all these guys, and Zion's on that list. I don't know why you would tie yourself to Zion any longer than you already have. I don't know why they were hamstringing David Griffin when he was the GM from moving off of Zion before, but I think ownership never wanted to allow him to do that either. And I get it. Zion and Ja both, they have followings in their home markets. Ja is super popular in Memphis. Zion, I think, is probably still pretty popular in New Orleans, and you're trying to sell tickets and you're trying not to alienate your fan base. But as a basketball matter, you can't rely on Zion. You can't rely on his health. You can't rely on his work habits. I've heard he's been better on that note, but he still keeps getting hurt. And do all these pieces actually make sense together? I mean, the indications this season would say no, that as much everybody loves these players, right? Trey Murphy, really good player. There'd be a huge market for Trey Murphy and Herb Jones if you put them out there. Derek Queen's looking really nice as a rookie. So they've got talent, but it clearly doesn't all fit together. And I think that starts with Zion just being a really tough bargain. So that's the one I'm most intrigued by, Spence. There's not a lot of teams that need a point guard, or certainly a point guard who has disappointed so many times as Ja Morant and Trae Young both have. But I do think Zion is really intriguing for a lot of teams. Excuse me for a second. You can let me off this light up here. Yeah, this is great. Thank you. So I the Zion thing is fascinating, and thank you. And I don't know where that one lands either eventually, but they have made it clear that they're not interested in trading him now. And as I say, that is insane to me. They should absolutely want to move on.
In my mind, you just got out of a handsome cab in Central Park, a horse and buggy. Is that what happened?
If only. No, I got out of an Uber, a Toyota RAV4 in front of Barclays Center. So that's a little different than the image in your head. I like your scenario better. Okay, fair enough. Hey,
since you're a music fan, unfortunately right now we are Toad the Wet Sprocket, and we're going to play Walk on the Ocean because I'm going to ask you about the Jazz and Larry Markkinen, because that's what we do. I don't know what else to talk about with the Jazz. I don't think they're going to trade him. I've landed that I think they want to hold on to him and also hold on to their draft asset. But are you hearing anything at all about the Jazz, whether it's Markkinen? I'll tell you what, Nurkic has played well for them, and if you're the Celtics, you need a big, so maybe there's something there. But we are in Salt Lake. Do you have anything on the Jazz right now?
No rumblings of late. It's interesting with the Markkinen thing because you and I have been on the same page the last couple of years, feeling like they should have moved off of him already. I got to say, I'm softening a little bit on that right now because Keontae George's emergence and development and the leaps he's making, and kind of you're starting to see the outline of a competitive team, and eventually, Kessler gets back, and there's just enough hope there. Now, they do need to lean into the tank again, unfortunately. All of their rhetoric to the contrary. They do need to lose this season and keep that pick and not let it go to OKC. But assuming another high pick, development from their young guys, maybe there's enough light at the end of the tunnel that's a little closer than we thought that it makes sense to hold on to Markkinen. I still would lean the other way overall, and I think the market for him would be robust, to say the least. But you can talk yourself into the idea that they're almost ready to turn the corner and that they'll do it with Markkinen still in his prime.
Yeah, and I think that's what they believe. And so hopefully next year when you join us, we'll actually have a team that's serious about competing to cover, because that would be fun. But before I set you loose, let me just open it up. I know the Giannis stuff is out there. There's several teams that would obviously be interested in him, but there's several teams that I think would need to make other moves as well if they want to solidify their spot. Any other trade intel out there, significant names that could be on the moves and teams that are looking to make trades?
The only thing and the Giannis thing is just weird, right? Like he's speaking out of both sides of his mouth. I'm not going to ask for a trade, as he told my buddy Sam Amick, but in the same interview, he's talking about, everything can change. You never know, whatever. But I never thought that was going to happen in season anyway. And every indication that the Bucks are going to try to make one more swing to try to get him a better supporting cast and see what they can do. So that one will resolve, I think, in the offseason when they offer him an extension and he either says yes and he's a Buck for life maybe, or he says no, in which case they almost have to trade him. But that's not happening for a few more months. In the meantime, obviously everybody's got their eyes on Sacramento. The Kings would love to blow this up if they could just find anybody who wants to take Zach LaVine or DeMar DeRozan or Dennis Schroeder or anybody. So that's the team I would keep an eye on in terms of the sellers side of it. The other thing I'm intrigued by, you alluded to the Celtics a minute ago. We all thought Boston was taking the gap year. They're not. They've been playing their butts off. Jaylen Brown's been amazing. Jason Tatum might somehow come back this season. And if that's the case, I think the Celtics are almost obligated to go the other direction now and go buy and get some better some veteran front court help, and be prepared for Tatum to then come back and make a run this spring. So that would be really intriguing.
For sure. Howard, thank you for the time, my friend. Enjoy the cold northeast winters, and we'll get you back on soon. Safe travels, okay?
Appreciate it, Spence. Take care.
Howard Beck, one of my favorites. I say it every week because he's been one of my favorites for a number of different years. Appreciate Howard's time. He writes for The Ringer now. He has spent time with the New York Times. He has spent time with the LA Times. He covered the Lakers. He covered the Knicks. Bleacher Report, Sports Illustrated. If you're a basketball fan, you have read Howard's work over the years. You can find his links to his work up on, I think he's on Blue Sky these days. Still has a Twitter account. At Howard Beck is where you find him. Appreciate his time. Yeah, I was trying to think about this maybe, 4 or 5 years ago. And this is when the Jazz were serious about competing. This was kind of near the end of the Mitchell-Gobert 9-year kind of tenure under Quinn, when we were looking around the landscape of the NBA to try to figure out who the Jazz were going to have to compete with down the road. Because at the time we were operating off the premise that Donovan was going to kind of be the cornerstone here because, Donovan was awesome, and it was a bummer how that all ended. The two teams that we talked about quite a bit, well, actually I'm going to throw 3 teams in there. The obvious teams were the Warriors with Steph and Durant and Clay, those teams that were generationally special. And then at the time, it was, the NBA Finals was typically like the Warriors against whoever LeBron was playing for. So, you talk about Durant, you talk about LeBron, you talk about the Warriors. Who are these teams that the Jazz are going to have to throw punches with? If the Jazz could continue to evolve and at some point legitimately be a championship contending team, because Dennis built the general blueprint of a team that if they kept evolving at some point I thought may have a little window. Now, the window, unfortunately, never fully came open because the team couldn't get it done in the postseason. But the other 3 teams that we talked about kind of as ancillary teams to the teams that were in the core of the best teams in the league with LeBron and Steph and Durant, one was Memphis, because if you remember, when Ja just kind of became Ja, got his own shoe deal, was making all-star teams, and wasn't just box office, was also really productive, never fully has developed a dominant three-point shooting game. But thought Memphis, if they could surround Ja with pieces, was going to have something to say about the NBA. The other team was Dallas because they had Luka, right? Anybody who was watching early on was like, okay, this kid is generationally special. If Dallas surrounds him with the right pieces, they're going to win rings. And they did go to one NBA Finals, but then you know the deal. They just went ahead and reset the Lakers' timeline and ruined their own timeline, and now that general manager has been fired, which we thought was going to happen. And then the other team was the Pelicans after they were able to draft Zion Williamson. Zion was like the first YouTube basketball star as a high school player. And then at 1 year at Duke, just proved how dominant he could be. And I'll repeat one more time what I said to Howard. And you can go look at Basketball Reference. Zion Williamson, over the course of his, I think, 6, maybe 7 years in the league now, he does have like 20 to 25 game sample sizes when he is healthy and playing well, where he's as good as anyone in pro basketball. And I'm serious. I mean anyone in pro basketball. The problem is he has never taken his conditioning seriously. He has never learned how to be a pro. I mean, the stories of how Zion behaves off the court are legendarily awful. The Ja stuff is more front-facing because it's headline-grabbing. The Zion stuff is stuff that you hear just in circles, that doesn't take care of himself. He's an unserious professional. And so when we fast forward now to this day in 2026, obviously the Jazz tore everything down. The Pelicans have been pathetic forever, even though they've tried to go all in certain areas because they can't figure it out with Zion. And now Memphis might trade Ja Morant as well, and that resets their entire timeline. The point of bringing this up is it's such a crazy league now. With the way things are set up, things can change in an instant. It's no longer like, okay, the Warriors and whoever LeBron is playing for. Things have changed. There have been so many different champs over the past 7-8 years. And if you're a Jazz fan, the hope is this blueprint, this baseline, this kind of foundation that is being built will allow these youngsters to grow while maintaining some draft capital because they have so many draft picks with the Mitchell and Gobert stuff. And then maintaining your cap flexibility with some money on hand that, like, if the Jazz were in a different place right now, I'd say go call about Zion Williamson. I'd say make a call about Ja Morant. Make a call about one of these legitimate veteran difference makers that you could bring in. But they're just not in the place where any of this makes sense. But because the league changes so much and player movement is what it is, if the Jazz can capitalize on this baseline that they're building now, a window will present itself at some point where Austin Ainge and Danny Ainge and Justin Zanuck and whoever's calling shots over there will have the opportunity to go all in on a guy like this. They did this in a way. Now, Mike Conley, he's not the global superstar that Doncic is or, Zion or Ja, but Dennis expedited the growth of that young group by going to get Mike. And so many people thought, okay, that's the grown-up in the room this team needs. And look, Mike is awesome for so many different reasons. Off the court, just like the best dude. He and his wife just ingratiated themselves in this community. And he was excellent on the floor, made an all-star team. That was the veteran move to expedite the growth and hopefully put them over the top. And it almost worked, but it didn't work entirely. And, of course, as we've been over, revisionist history, COVID changed that team forever. All right, some breaking news. Brooks Koepka has filed paperwork to make his return to the PGA Tour. Why do I bring that up? Well, we are going to talk a little golf, even though it's January, coming up on the other side with Paul Pugmire. On3 is reporting that J.J. Buchanan is expected to announce he is signed with Michigan. So Utah is going to lose another really good young player to Ann Arbor. So we'll get back to football as Dr. Chris Hill will join us live on site. We're at Beer Bar right downtown. 161 East, 200 South, and we are giving away tickets for the Utah BYU basketball game tomorrow. You just have to be present here at 5:30. Give me a high five. I'm going to hook you up. And at 5:30, we will send our coverage to the college football semifinal, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl between Oregon and Indiana. Busy day, busy Friday. Good to have you with us right here on ESPN 700. All right, live today, Friday afternoon style, right downtown in the heart of Salt Lake City, Utah, the capital city, 161 East, 200 South. It's Beer Bar. And we are giving away tickets for the Utah BYU game tomorrow night, Utah BYU basketball. I haven't checked the line, but I think BYU is favored by 37.5. It's going to be a tough one for our guy Alex Jensen, but let's try to get up there because I have a feeling there's going to be quite a bit of BYU blue. And so hopefully we can represent. Come on by and say hello. The legend himself, Dr. Chris Hill, is going to join us live here at Beer Bar. If you've ever wanted to meet Dr. Hill or maybe have a beer with him, I don't even know if he drinks, but we are at Beer Bar, and we'll be here till about 6 o'clock tonight. All right, some breaking news. Brooks Koepka has filed paperwork to make a triumphant return to the PGA Tour. Our next guest might have something to say about that. Paul Pugmire, happy Friday, sir. How are you?
Doing great. Spence, I was at Beer Bar last week. Great fries.
There you go. Excellent fries. Brand new menu. Cotton, the cotton bottom garlic burger, pastrami sandwich. So come on by. But this is, Paul, for, I guess years now, you and I have talked on this show ever since the whole Live Golf thing, kind of came to fruition, and the panic early on about what this is going to do to the tour. And quite frankly, Paul, the answer is it really hasn't done anything to the tour. Now, it has taken some really great golfers away, and there's no doubt about that. I miss watching DJ, like Prime DJ and John Rahm. I've always been a Brooks guy. Is this maybe a signal that the Live allure is cracking? And if Brooks makes his way back, do you think it could open the door for others to follow?
Yes and yes to all the questions that you're asking. We don't know why, we don't know how, I meant to say. We don't know how all this will play out. How does the tour respond to this application exactly? Do they exact some kind of penalty for returning? How do they handle it? Boy, there's a lot of unknown questions on that. But there's no question that there is a crack in the foundation of Live and that the water's coming in the basement. You mentioned DJ. My heck, I miss DJ. I miss Ron. I miss Cam Smith. DeChambeau has stayed visible, but he is the only one. He is the only Live player who hasn't just gone into an abyss and disappeared. And the golf world is better watching these great players play. There's no doubt. I followed Koepka, in person, and man, I want to do that again. I want to see him play. It is something to watch this guy hit a golf ball and play the game. But he's been invisible for a long time.
Now, Paul, you know what the conversation is going to sound like because, and maybe everyone's just going to tip your cap to Brooks because he took $100 million to go to Live. He won his 5th major. He didn't get banned from playing in any majors, and now looks like he's just going to be able to come back to the tour. And if I'll just use Jordan Spieth. If I'm Jordan Spieth, if I'm Justin Thomas, because those guys reportedly were offered, $100 million plus to take the Live stuff as well. I just don't know how it lands. Now, ultimately, you want the best players back on tour, but it doesn't feel like it's just going to be a seamless, arms wide open welcome back. I think there are going to be a lot of players on tour that said no to that money, wondering whether or not this is fair, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense, and I think you're spot on correct. This is a big part. This is the biggest part of that. We don't know what the how will look like. Koepka and the others took a ton of money. Yep, and many of them really dissed on the tour. Now, interestingly, Koepka never did. He kept his counsel, and he didn't join in any lawsuits or anything like that. That may well stand to his stead as this is all being worked out. But the reality is, they left. They left for a bucket ton of money. And then, do they just come back with a tip of the hat? I don't see that happening. I see there being some kind of process. Some may be some kind of penalty for exactly the reason that you're talking about. If you are Jordan Spieth, if you are Tony Finau, let's make it local, because we know that Tony would have been solicited by Liv. he would have been offered big money. And Tony stayed on tour. Well, how does that wear for the players who stayed? For some of them, it's going to stick in their throat. It'll be fascinating to see how this plays out.
Yeah, I want to stay in this space because I actually think this is a pretty sizable story. And, the PGA Tour announced some scheduling stuff that we'll get to here in just a little bit. But it's so interesting to consider how many times you and I have talked about, the merger is happening. All right, they're gonna sign some sort of agreement where where the public investment fund or whatever, the Saudis are going to invest in the tour, and now they're going to be partners. And then the poor Brendan Monahan dude looked like he was going to die, so he had to go find something else to do with his life, and he steps aside. There's new leadership, and friend of the show Brian Rolap is now the commissioner of the PGA Tour. And so I think for me, I'll just speak for myself, I landed in a space where it's like, all right, it's just time to probably acknowledge that these two things are just going to exist together. And the LIV guys are going to play on the LIV Tour, and the PGA guys are going to play on the PGA Tour. So let me ask you, does anything about this news change your opinion about the future of the sport? Or is LIV so solidified now that they're just going to continue to exist kind of alongside the PGA Tour?
I think in order to start to analyze this really good question that you're asking, we need to back up and look at the whole globe, look at the world of golf, not just American golf. So American golf absolutely dominated by the PGA Tour, always has been, I think always will be. But LIV has shown an ability to do well around the world. Singapore, Australia, various places in the Middle East, places that don't have other professional golf. LIV has really done well. And Australia is absolutely at the top of the list. And so I think there is a place on the world scene for LIV. I don't see them ever being successful in the United States. LIV has been playing in the United States for 4 years now, and again, these players have just been invisible. LIV is invisible in the U.S. But it's a bigger deal around the world, and I think what that starts to point to is collaboration, and ultimately, perhaps, some kind of merger of some sort with the DP World Tour, the old European Tour, which again is also very good at international golf. The format issues in LIV would have to be overcome, and they've taken a baby step with going to 72 holes, but there are far bigger issues. It's an invitation tour. It's not a merit tour. The shotgun stuff is just all kinds of stupid, and it undermines competitive integrity in so many ways. But the big picture, wide view analysis of this central question that you're asking is that you got to look at it worldwide, not just in America.
Yeah, that's a good point. And this is the portion of the conversation where Paul educates Spence on golf, because I do just view this sport through the prism of the tour, and because I have the Golf Channel on in the background way too much, way more than I'd like to admit, I have been exposed to more of like the DP World Tour stuff and what's going on overseas. Because I think, again, I'll just speak for myself, you view it through this prism of golf in America and the PGA Tour and the events that even average Joe sport fan knows, even if he's not a big golf fan. Let me ask you this. It just came to my mind, and there might be nothing here. Do you think LIV has somehow, some way been able to capitalize on the growth of the game and tap into what I would call like the barstoolification of the game of golf, like the golf bros that we all see on the range and can't stand with their tight shorts and their mustaches and their horrible just demeanor? Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, all these dudes are playing music on the golf course way too loud. They have no etiquette. They're just yelling. Like, they have zero respect for the game. They have zero respect for the history of the game. They have zero respect. There's no decorum. They're not worried about keeping the pace up. They're just out there to smash White Claws with their stupid hats and act a fool the entire time. If you can't tell, it's striking a nerve. Has Liv been able to kind of capture this side of the game that most people that really respect the game cannot stand at all?
Yeah, they have, and I want to be very careful here. Spence, I will get off your lawn.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
No, I love the passion, and look, I'm with you, man. And I love the way your attention personally and your growth of knowledge in the game has paralleled chronologically Liv on the scene, because that's given you a perspective that I think others won't have. But back to your question, the Liv puts on a show. I went to the Liv event in Vegas 2 years ago. I just wanted to see it. I wanted to put my feet on the grass and understand what it was. And the main thing I came away with is that the golf was secondary, maybe tertiary. They were putting on a show. The only thing I've experienced that was similar to attending a Liv event in person was when the NBA All-Star Game came to Salt Lake. It was that kind of thing. They tried to be big like the Olympics, but the Olympics have a gravitas, and there was no gravitas there. It was a circus. It was the state fair. It was a show, and they were very, very good at it. And it was a high-quality show, but it was a show. And so, yes, I think absolutely Liv and the emergence of YouTube golf and the frequently annoying golf bros, yeah, they all kind of are growing out of the same soup.
Yeah, I mean, last year, as you know, I had the opportunity to go to Arnie's tournament at Bay Hill and then a Liv tournament in Indianapolis, and like they're not even close to the same thing. It's the feel, the music. You feel like you're at a party with a bunch of people on MDMA if you're at a Liv event, and when you're at a PGA Tour event, it feels. I guess what I would say, it feels, in my opinion, Paul, the way golf is supposed to feel. That's just me.
Yeah, oh yeah, and look, you went to Bay Hill, you went to Arnie's tournament. Nothing is higher class than something with Arnold Palmer's name on it in Bay Hill. They do it right, and so you've got a really high-end experience there. And you know, actually, listening to you say that, I think also when we talk about Liv, the comparison needs to be made to professional wrestling, to WrestleMania kind of things as well. That kind of vibe.
All right. Besides Phil, I'm going to take Phil off the table.
Okay.
Who are the Liv guy? Who is the Liv guy, or who are the Liv guys that even if they wanted to come back to the tour, there's just no pathway for that outside of Phil? He's the obvious answer.
Yeah, really, right? Boy, the thing is, so there are different levels of Liv guys. Phil, untouchable. He made himself so.
Yep.
And then there's Bryson DeChambeau, who lives in a world of one. He is his own category. And then immediately below him are the guys we talked about earlier. It's Koepka. It is DJ. It is Cam Smith. Superb players, major champions, crowd favorites. And then below those guys are players where, candidly, I sometimes lose track of them all. Now that I'm talking about it, okay, Patrick Reed's in there. I don't see much of a path for Patrick Reed. Then there's Joaquin Niemann. He is an interesting case. He left Liv before he fully established himself and before he got anywhere near his ceiling, which everybody recognizes is very high. He left the PGA Tour for Liv, that is, before he got anywhere near his ceiling. And so we really don't know what Joaquin Niemann could do in a merit-based system with relegation that's not an invitational. I think he could have been very, very good, and he might follow in the wake of Koepka, get back to the tour, and be very, very good. We'll see. And then there's a bunch of names that just don't matter. And boy, it's going to be hard for names that don't matter to make a path back, because the tour will have very little incentive. Say, yeah, okay, you want to play here, so what?
All right, last thing on this, because if you're just joining us, we got Paul Pugmire on the line, and the breaking news about 20 minutes ago is Brooks Koepka has applied for reinstatement to the PGA Tour after leaving LIV. That was announced like 2 weeks ago. Last thing here, because also announced today is that the PGA Tour is expanding its player equity program to reward current performance, adding the top 50 in the FedEx Cup to those receiving recurring grants from a first-of-its-kind program that has topped $1 billion in equity for more than 200 players. So this is has the fingerprints of Brian Rolapp all over it. Again, friend of the show, super sharp guy. Love that he's in charge of this. But you add this equity program to the signature events and the expanded purses and the PGA Tour players themselves being able to benefit at a much higher level than they were able to prior to the creation of LIV Golf. So as we look back on this in 20, 30 years, is there any space where we will say that Phil and anyone else who joined LIV actually did have the opportunity to do some good for players at the end of the day on the PGA Tour, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it does make sense, and I think the answer is they already have. I think the signature events and events with a $20 million purse with 4.5 going to the winners, I think that was a response to LIV, and that was something to create an incentive for the Jordan Spieths and Tony Finau's of the world to stay on the PGA Tour. So I think they already have had an effect. However, it's not the biggest building on the island. There are other markers in the game where the money has increased, most notably Arnold Palmer and Tiger Woods. Those guys brought more money to the tour and more prestige and more prominence to the tour than responding to LIV ever did. But, LIV has to be in the conversation of bumping things up for the tour. And so now what Brian Rolapp is doing, I'm impressed with it. Look, he comes out of the NFL, of course, where they have, in the last decade, really made strides in, think of it as a retirement system, a pension system for players that make the NFL wealthy but have a very, very short career window. And so the NFL has created a pension system, and that's essentially what is the conceptual basis of what's going on now in the PGA Tour.
All right, before we find out what's on the show tomorrow, the PGA Tour today announced some fall schedule adjustments, new tournaments in North Carolina and Austin, Texas, 2 events swing through Mexico. But we also, there's a local tie here because the 16th President's Cup will be at Medina Country Club in Chicago, September 24th through the 27th, and then the schedule picks back up October 1st through the 4th at the Bank of Utah Championship. Of course, that's at Black Desert down in Irvins, Utah. So before I set you loose and find out what's on the show tomorrow, I know you have talked to those guys down there. I have a lot of people on the show from Black Desert. I've been down there a bunch. I love it. It's such a great course. And I do think the ultimate goal at some point is to move this event from the fall calendar to more of like the meat and potatoes when the PGA Tour plays. So just what sort of process is that? And do you think that is something that will happen, maybe within the next few years?
Yeah, I do. And they are in full engagement with the tour on that discussion. I've talked with the leadership at Black Desert about this, with Patrick Manning and his crew. Keep in mind, the gentleman at the PGA Tour who is in charge of all this stuff is Tyler Dennis, who went to Cottonwood High. He's a Salt Lake guy. And so, yeah, there's a lot of conversation going on right now. And yes, the objective is to get Black Desert into the earlier part of the year. Now, all of the of the scheduling stuff, with the exception of the majors, and then things like Arnie's at Bay Hill and Jack's tournament at Memorial. Everything's on the table with the schedule going forward, and so there's so many variables, seriously hundreds of variables, but they're working on it, and I think it's entirely plausible that this tournament, the Bank of Utah Championship at Black Desert, ends up in the meat part of the year, and they're absolutely looking toward that. We'll be talking with Black Desert people tomorrow on the show about all this, trying to get caught up with where things stand. But it's a very dynamic situation right now.
All right, Paul, before I set you loose, you referenced you'll be discussing things with the folks from Black Desert. What else is coming up on the show tomorrow?
Well, we've got a really fun thing going on. We talked about having just completed the holidays. Yeah, there's a lot of holidays going on. I'm kind of fond of Festivus. But anyway, December 30th was Tiger Woods' birthday, and this year it was his 50th birthday. We're going to be talking with the Utah Golf Hall of Famer Guy Yoakum, who spent his entire career at Golf Digest and writing about the entirety of Tiger's career. We're going to be talking with Guy Yoakum about Tiger turning 50 and the big things that he has done during those 50 years, and I'm so looking forward to that conversation.
I did not get invited to Tiger's birthday party. Did you get that invite?
I know.
All right.
Darn it. Yeah, it must have lost in the mail, I'm sure.
All right. Paul, thanks for the time, my friend. Big day in the world of golf. Have a great show tomorrow, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We'll see you.
Paul Pugmire, big news if you're a golf fan. Brooks Koepka has filed paperwork to return to the PGA Tour. If you're not a golf fan, I'm probably speaking Mandarin Chinese. All right, we're live today at Beer Bar, and Dr. Hill is here, and I think he's ordering something to drink. We'll see. If you've ever wanted to come hang out with Dr. Hill, really good dude. It is 161 East, 200 South. We'll catch a break, and then we'll chat with Dr. Hill for an entire hour. Coming up on the other side right here on ESPN 700. All right, we're live today here at Beer Bar. It's downtown Salt Lake City, Utah. It is 161 East, 200 South. Come on down and say hi. If you're looking for a place to watch the college football semifinal tonight, starts at 5:30. And at 5:30, we're giving away 2 tickets for Utah BYU basketball tomorrow night at the Huntsman Center. And you can shake the hand of the legend himself, celebrity side in the Beer Bar, Dr. Chris Hill. How are you, sir?
I'm okay. These guys will probably be lining up,
Oh, you for sure.
You got to be kidding me.
When I saw this on the calendar, on the schedule, I said to Porter, I said, check and see if Dr. Hill is okay coming down to Beer Bar. Is this your first time at Beer Bar?
Well, I've been to the place next door. The
Bar
same
X.
owner, Bar X,
Mm-hmm.
but this wasn't in existence then. But, and I'm not on a dry January. I decided not to do that.
There you go.
The 37th year in a row. But anyway, it's a nice place.
Yeah,
really
it's
nice
great.
place. I can't. I would take me a week to decide what beer to have because there's so many options.
Yeah,
But,
they've got like 72 on tap, but they've got a new menu. They've got a new garlic burger, pastrami sandwich, French dip sandwich, Nick Romando, Ty Burrell. They're good to have us here quite a bit. Great place to watch Utah football. Great place to watch the college football semifinal tonight. So come on by, 161 East, 200 South. Dr. Hill's going to be here for about an hour or so. Been a rather busy news cycle, sir, has it not?
Yeah, I think it's, you seem to pick the right time for me to come. About once a month we get together.
Love
and it always seems like, when there's a lot of action, it probably makes sense,
For sure.
I'm like everybody else, I have opinion, maybe slightly more educated, but not a ton.
Well, I mean, I would say a ton more than fans and more than me for sure. And I know that, and I never want to put you in a bad spot for sure. And I know that you're not actively up there as much, but you are the guy, and athletic directors in no small part are remembered for their hires, which is why so many people will always remember your tenure so fondly. And one of your hires was Kyle.
Yeah.
And so now, after 21 years as the head coach, 30 years on staff, Kyle Whittingham lives in Ann Arbor, which is a sentence I never thought I'd say. How have you kind of digested all of this?
Well, it's been hard to digest, but, Kyle's a competitor. He made the big mistake of saying, I only want to coach X number of years. And, I wish I would have grabbed him by the throat 10 years ago and said, no. I had my own line I used, and I could have taught him that. But, he did. I wrote him text back and forth, and he did say, hey, come out to Michigan, watch a ball game.
Yeah, for sure.
And I thought, well, as time goes on, the AD coach relationship is really hard. You're always deciding their salary and this and that, and I'm management and he was labor. But I think as time went on, things have become, a little more enjoyable even than they were. But, I'm not surprised. I mean, if he didn't have that statement, I'm going to go to 65 years, I don't think anybody would be, in the lead up that they've had.
Yeah.
It's been a while. What's going to happen? And nobody wants them talking to you about that, whispering behind your back, saying, oh, no, that guy's leaving.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Well, and Kyle himself actually admitted to that mistake recently when he was doing some media as the new head coach at Michigan, that he wished he wouldn't have handled it that way. But I always talk about, trying to really decipher how big a story is in my business. You're pulled by the news, not just the sports department. And then a lot of people around the country want to talk to you if you're on the station that's the flagship of the Utes. So I've done 9 or 10 radio hits over the past few weeks, Michigan, Nebraska for the bowl game.
Sure.
And I'm going to ask you some questions that were asked of me to get your insight. One of the very common questions, because Kyle has become a national name, Dr. Hill.
Sure.
In the past couple of weeks in a way that he never was here, right?
No,
so there are a lot of casual college football fans that are getting to know Kyle, for the first time, really. And a question was asked to me that if Kyle Whittingham, after 21 years of building this football program up to one of the preeminent football programs in the Western United States, still wanted to coach football, why is he not coaching football at Utah?
That's a tough question.
Yeah, it is.
I think in some ways, when I read what Kyle said, I think he's so smart. Really smart and in tune with things, and I think in either the back or front of his mind he was starting to feel something. Feel that too many people, when you're going to leave Kyle, what's going on? I mean, that's like Kyle Whittingham is a great coach, and by the way, and he probably was sick, and by the way, so in many ways that kind of maybe hit him, that stepping down is maybe how he wants to say it. And that's what he said. And when I read that, I thought, okay.
Did that strike you right away?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
interesting.
Oh,
Okay.
he's so careful with his words.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, no. He didn't use the retire word. And, when I saw him just for a little bit, I said, you are careful with your words, aren't you? He said, yeah, he is. So when I heard that, I thought, maybe he's just feeling just what he said in the paper. Just what he said in the paper and on the radio.
Yeah.
I can't just say paper because we're on the radio.
Sure,
I don't
yes.
want to offend you.
No, not offended at all. Not offended at all. Because now everything you say on the radio exists online. So in a way, like back in the day, if you said it on radio, no one heard it, you never hear it. But now, just like print, we do exist online if anybody wants to go download the interview. So they're and I'm not one to tell fans how to fan, right? We need fans. They're the lifeblood of the business of media. We need them to listen to the show. We need them to buy tickets.
Sure.
We need fans to participate. And so whatever way you want to participate, please do that. There are a lot of fans that are feeling betrayed by Kyle, right? So when he took the Michigan job, the first question I was asked is which coaches follow him, to which I said whichever coaches he wants. Okay? And so it turns out like there was some noise that he wanted Sharif, and Sharif and Morgan are so close, and Sharif is such a Utah man. Turns out he takes a grip of coaches from Utah, 2 from BYU. And my guess, as of now, there are 3 official commits to Michigan, and my guess is by the time the dust settles, it's probably 5. Now, for frame of reference, Matt Campbell took 19 players from Iowa State to Penn State, and all of his coaches too. This is the game. This is the business. But there are a lot of fans that are feeling a little bit betrayed. What would you say to that?
Yeah, let me. I was thinking about this coming down. I knew we would be talking about it. I've got a great grasp of the obvious.
I know
as
you
I've
do.
Told you many times, but. So I put myself in the shoes of Jim Harding and Jay Hill. Let's use that as an example.
Sure, yeah.
Worked all their lives in the state of Utah. Both want to be head coaches. Both are, in my mind, very capable of being good head coaches. And they want to start at a good job, not start at a loser. All right? So you're those guys, and you're sitting in your office saying, damn it, if Kyle doesn't call me, I am offended. Right? Because Jay gets to put Utah, Weber State, BYU, and Michigan on his resume. So if I'm sitting there and I'm those 2 guys, if Kyle didn't call me, I'd be upset.
Yeah.
I was ready. I'd be ready to go before I talked to him. So, I mean, that's how it is. And I think we've been fortunate in Utah to have people stay for long times. I had it when I was lucky enough to be the athletic director with staff, and it's a good place to be. But in football, you want to be a head coach, I think. At least I know those 2 guys do, and they're capable of it.
Yeah.
Some guys that are life assistants, and God bless them, because that's the right decision. Because the Peter principle, sometimes you go beyond your level of capability.
Sure.
And so I use those 2 as an example. I talk to people. I said, people are anxious to be part of that.
Yeah.
If you're on the Utah staff and Kyle doesn't ask you, you mean I was working for him, he didn't care about me? I wasn't one of his guys?
Yeah.
So I have no problem with it. I know the deal, and, I mean, when Urban left, of course, that was different because it was so big, but it's just what you do. You try to trust people, and those 2 guys I mentioned, I God bless them. I think, nothing disparaging to Utah or BYU, but they had no choice.
Yeah.
If they wanted to be a head coach. Now putting Michigan on Jay Hill's resume, he's got the state. So you're an AD and you're looking at before this happened. Oh, he's been in Utah a while. I wonder if he knows much about the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Do they have cable TV in Utah? What's going on? But now he throws Michigan in there.
Yeah.
All of a sudden he can recruit the Midwest.
Yeah.
Even though he probably did already.
Right.
So an AD would look at that and say, that's he's at the biggest of bigs. And now people move from assistant coaching jobs to pretty good head coaching jobs.
Yeah.
They just don't move to like where Jay did to Weber State and try to find your way through. No disparaging about Weber State,
Sure,
but the food chain.
Yeah. So it's interesting to consider because, again, a lot of people are taking this very personally. A lot of people, because Kyle said, I feel like I'm leaving the program in a good place. What he meant was he came back, steadied the ship. They won 11 games. It's only happened 4 times in school history. Lost in all this is the football team just had a really damn good year. Right. You know what I mean? And so a lot of fans are taking umbrage with the phrase, leave the program in a good place. and then pillage the program for coaches and players. But there's no way Witt knew Michigan was going to come open, right?
No, he did not.
Yeah.
He did not know that.
Things change.
Things change,
Yeah.
and, maybe he was sniffing around or thinking or imagining or whatever. But, it wasn't a quid pro quo, and it was kind of like, it was an opportunity for him. And so now he's sitting and saying, well, I've got some really good coaches that I trust.
Yeah.
Beck's only there for a year. He was his guy. And then there's some players that are interested in playing at a place like Michigan.
Yeah.
So what's he going to do? Say no to talent?
Right.
I mean, he's got to win too.
Yeah.
See, let's flip the other side of this. He going to Michigan where the heat's a lot harder, and he's talking to everybody, and he's realizing, whoa, I got to win. And it's not Utah he's taken from. Maybe he knows the kids, and they have a connection to him, and it gives him a little advantage over getting somebody from Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, that's the game.
Yeah.
I mean, Morgan's going to take people from other places.
Sure, yeah.
It's not mean-spirited. It's just in Morgan's best interest.
Right.
And I'm sure he will. He'll
Yeah.
be smarter with it.
Yeah. No, I mean, the fact that, because somebody asked me, why didn't Kyle just make the trip out to the Vegas Bowl, even if he wasn't coaching the team? Why didn't he? I said, because he's the head coach at Michigan now.
Yeah.
And if they're going to pay him $35 million in guaranteed money and maybe even more with bonuses, you want your coach on the job.
Right.
Kyle Whittingham is the head coach of Michigan now. His one job is to make sure he wins football games at Michigan. None of his activities or decisions, at least I don't think, are intentionally trying to sabotage the program that he left. He's doing what he thinks is best for him.
Yeah, he's doing, and he wants the team to do well. He's proud of what happened. It's not like he's wishing ill will on the players here.
Right.
He wanted to win the game, but it didn't work out. And every one of those situations is different.
Yeah.
We had probably a unique situation. I didn't say very unique because that doesn't exist. I don't know if you know that.
Okay. I
It's
need to
either unique or it's not.
I need to
okay?
knock that out of my vernacular.
Yeah,
then.
get it out of there.
Okay.
But with Urban and Kyle, that was such a different situation.
Yeah.
The leaving was so peaceful. When I hired Urban, I said, you go to the biggest of bigs, God bless you. You've done a job. I didn't expect it to be in 4 or 5 years.
Sure.
I thought it'd be 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
That was unique. It just made sense. But most of them don't make sense that way.
Yeah.
Because he's got a job to do.
Right.
And it's so different than it was 20 years ago with the portal and all this stuff and trying to get donors to understand what's going on and, get them fired up for a new guy that maybe they could slap leather and pay a little more.
Yeah. You referenced when Urban left, and it is very apples and oranges. Mm-hmm. Because to your point, you hired Urban, and you're the one that saw that not only could he come here and do what he did, but there's a good chance that this is too small of a pond for a guy like that. So you knew at some point he was probably going to get gone. But help us understand the process, because Urban took his staff too.
Sure he did.
I mean, a lot of people are it's the reaction from some people are like, Kyle's the first coach in the history of college football to take his staff with him after taking it. It happens all the time. We're about to watch a team tonight in Indiana with a new coach who took all of his guys with him too, and Kurt Cignetti. So when Urban came to you and said, I got to go, it's Florida, take us through that process. What's that transition like?
It was so natural because, it had to happen.
Yeah.
Because, I wasted a lot of long evening with he and Shelley trying to convince me. He says, Chris, come on. I mean, spending this much talk about it is a real compliment to Utah.
Yeah.
But, it was just a smooth transition because it was such a leap. Nobody expected Urban to stay. I mean, I offered him money that we didn't have. I don't know where I was going to get it if he decided to stay. I go, are you sure you want to stay? But, it just was smooth. I look back on it. We weren't recruiting the same players, too. That's a big deal. Mm-hmm. There weren't players from Utah that he felt like taking 5 or 6 times. But some people don't look at the flip side. Okay, you're at Michigan, and none of Kyle's guys want to go with him. What would that be like if you were the Michigan people saying, oh, my gosh, none of his players want to go with him?
That's a good point.
In this day and age.
That's a good point, yeah.
Let's look at the flip side of things.
Yeah.
Jay doesn't want to go with him?
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong with Kyle?
Yeah.
And I'm the Michigan. And there are no secrets in the world.
Right.
Liz taught me that.
Mm-hmm.
And Michigan all of a sudden say, wait a minute, we're the only coach in the country that his guys don't want to go with him, and none of his coaches are coming with him.
Yeah.
Look at that side of it.
It's a really good point. It is ultimately a lesson in a way. it is a testament to Kyle that so many people were so willing to move their families across the country.
Sure.
And look, it's Michigan. They're being paid more money.
Sure.
It's the Big Ten, right? And Kyle oftentimes would talk about the Big Ten. And there are a lot of people believe in this sport. It is a P2 sport with the SEC and the Big Ten, and not the Big 12 and the ACC, right?
No, it's a P2. And
yeah.
Maybe someday they'll just do what they should do and make them employees, 2 divisions, 40 schools. We all know it, but let's ignore it. And Big Ten adds some schools, SEC adds some schools, and move on with life.
Right.
Because it really is P2 now.
And it's past time to get this done because now we have players signing contracts and then deciding 2 days later that they don't want to honor the deals. Now, the Damon Williams kid is going to end up back at UW. But somebody drew a parallel, and you're probably the only person to ask this question, about the end of Witt feeling a little bit like the end of Rick Majerus, right?
Okay.
And so the way it was framed to me is that there were certain people in the administration that just felt like it was time for the transition from Kyle to Morgan. Just like there were certain people, even though Rick was unbelievably successful and nearly won a national championship, tournament runs, we were all there, we all know the deal. Is there anything there to like it was time for Kyle to move on, just like it was time for Rick to move on?
I think Kyle was less the time to move on in people's mind.
Okay.
Rick had some other things going on, that were in his health,
Yeah.
and some of the stuff going around the program, which Kyle doesn't have. So, I think that they're similar but not the same. A distinction without a difference? I don't know what. No, that's the other way around.
Yeah.
Okay, I got myself on that one.
You're good.
But I think it's different. But there was a feeling like that as much as Rick did. But I think his was a lot to do with his relationship in certain situations, and he was younger.
Rick was younger.
Yeah, he was younger.
Do you remember how old was he when he left Utah?
He left in 2004.
I can look that up.
And he's 2 years younger than me. So what would that make? He was like 54.
54.
Yeah,
okay.
He was 54.
Okay.
So it wasn't like people were thinking he was going to retire.
Yeah.
So it's really different.
I can't believe Rick passed away 14 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm just looking this up.
Oh, no, 2004 was his last year.
His last year.
Yeah.
Okay, so his last year at Utah was 2004.
Yeah. And I think he was 54 because he and I were 2 years apart.
You're correct. He was 54 years old.
Bingo.
So younger than Kyle. And also we should be very clear here. At least I have not heard anything as far as Kyle mistreating people the way Rick may have. Is that fair to say?
I like the may because we don't want to determine anything. But, they're just so different.
Yeah.
The thing was, Kyle and Rick were maybe as opposite as you get.
Yeah.
When you think about it, Rick could talk till 3 a.m. with you, and Kyle's, what else we got to talk about? Okay, let's move on.
Let's go.
I got something to do.
Done.
Okay, bye.
Yeah.
So, language so different, and national personality. Rick was at Utah too.
Right.
But he was a national name.
Mm-hmm. He was.
Yeah, he was as big as Urban's name, I think, in a lot of ways.
He was in basketball communities.
Yeah.
Rick Majerus is still to this day revered by a lot of people because of how brilliant he was. I mean, I've often said, because I went to Rick's camps growing up, I got to know him. I've often said, but I didn't know him the way you did. I've often said my prism is Rick Majerus literally gave his life to basketball, like literally.
Oh, that was his problem. Yeah,
right.
I think he. Well, now I feel like a psychiatrist or something, but in reality that was big to him. He had some good group of friends, but it was important that, they were very separate.
Yeah.
And that was, he didn't want to mix the two, and he was a savant. I mean, he was in a lot of ways very different. Kyle didn't seek being that kind of national figure.
Yeah.
I don't think.
He's got it now, whether he likes it or not.
Whether he likes it or not, he got it, and that did it to him. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a national figure now, and he's really good now. Even more when I hired him, I was a little worried about how he'd handle the media and all that kind of stuff and donors, because that wasn't his thing.
Yeah.
He was his dad's son, Fred.
Yeah.
Fred wasn't, I'm not going to talk to you, And but Kyle, boy, I listen to him now. He's really good.
Yeah.
He really is smooth and real, not phony.
Right.
But he's really good that way. Rick was just Rick. I mean, we have a lunch we have once a month with some people like Donnie and those people together, and we talk, and all of a sudden there's like 20 minutes of Rick stories.
Yeah.
And it just, that'll never end. And
for sure.
I ran into my grandkids are in a certain age where they don't know who the guy is, which I understand.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny.
Yeah,
it's not funny. Anyway.
Dr. Chris Hill is with us, former athletic director at the U, live at Beer Bar, 161 East, 200 South. Come on down and watch the CFP semifinal, the Fiesta Bowl tonight. You referenced something earlier, the relationship between an athletic director and the head coaches whom that athletic director hires.
Right.
So I want to be clear, and again, I always want to put the preface, I never want to put you in a bad spot. You're a smart guy. You can handle this however you want to handle it. From my perspective, I have zero idea the way Kyle feels about Mark Harlan, the way Mark Harlan feels about Kyle. But when it comes to your experiences with the Rick Majerus's or the Ron McBrides or the Urban Meyers or the Kyle Whittinghams, what are the dynamics that potentially could get in the way and make that difficult to sustain very long?
Yeah, I think, first of all, you start off. Here we go with Rick again. His dad was a labor guy, and so I was managing, he was labor, immediately a fight. Kind of like you with your general manager, probably. And he was the talent, and I was the guy in the background, which I loved. So that really felt well with the coaches. But for me, it was kind of, the relationship has to be, you're around enough to talk so something doesn't fester, but you're not hovering over the coach's deal.
Yeah.
And for me, the better they did, the more I enjoyed being in the background, because I knew they would look at me and say, this guy doesn't want to be a big shot with me.
Yeah.
And that was my deal. And, I said, here's the keys to the team. I'll deal with things outside the lines. I'll do that. And, so but your relationship, you have to understand, I think, that everybody's different. I mean, one of my favorite expressions was the greatest form of discrimination is treat everybody the same. You can be fair, but not the same.
Sure.
So Rick wanted to go out to dinner and talk. I had Kyle meet with me every 2 weeks in my office. Those are the different ways and all the range in between. But the bottom line is I didn't want to go too long without at least eyeballing the coach.
Yeah.
And during the season, having been a coach before, I knew I didn't want to bug him the day of a game. We're not going to contact him now.
Right.
I'm not going to talk to him about his parking ticket before we go to play at BYU. I'm sorry, guys. You go talk to him. Oh, I can't do that. That's Rick Majerus. And don't expect me to.
Yeah.
But, I think if that answers your question, I think it kind of hits it. That's the relationship, because when things go bad, you're the bad guy.
Yeah.
What is a choice that an AD has to do really in this day and age? If a coach is whatever, am I going to give them a lecture? Yeah, that's going to go far.
Yeah.
Am I going to cut their salary? Yeah, they win next year and they gouge me.
Right.
Or am I going to fire them?
Yeah.
I wasn't going to fire Rick for parking tickets, I don't think.
Did Rick have a penchant for parking tickets from time to time?
Oh, it was hysterical. I got in my book. I got stories that are hysterical.
I can't wait for this.
We're almost done, but
good.
There's so many little things with him. Just even about. They're big thing, but they're parking things that you get done. And the parking guy called me. Well, the lawyer called me something about Rick's driving. And I said, so what am I going to do? So I wrote a letter to the lawyers and copied Rick. And he goes, what's this about? I said, Rick, I don't give a damn what you do. Mm-hmm. But they're telling me we got liability. And I'm on their side if you hit somebody. That's all. We laughed. And he goes, okay, I won't do that. Puts his finger in his nose. And then with parking things, there were a million parking things. And I finally tried to go to war with him one time. I said, Rick, what are we going to do? I mean, he goes, just tell them to boot me and give me a ticket. Mm-hmm. So I called a parking. Oh, we can't do that. That's Rick Majerus. I said, oh, good. We just got back from the Final Four. I'm trying to negotiate a multi-million-dollar contract, and you don't want to give him a ticket? And that's the best thing you've ever done on campus is give people tickets? And Rick can't get one? He parked right next to the Huntsman Center.
He just parked wherever then.
Oh, yeah. Nobody could give him a ticket because it was Rick Majerus.
Yeah, and
he tested it,
Oh, for sure.
Kyle could test it, too.
Oh, really?
Sure he could have, and they give him a ticket. And Kyle would, I don't know. I don't know the group now. Just when I was working with him, it was just hysterical.
Well, as a former student at the U, I kind of am on your side because we had a running joke. People would leave the house to go to class, then come back 20 minutes later. It's like, did you go to class? And it's like, no, we couldn't find anywhere to park. Parking at the University of Utah is a horrific experience, but obviously there are people doing their jobs. You also referenced, this struck me because Okay, so we're talking about the relationship between an athletic director and the coaches that the athletic director hires. And I often believe that results in winning brings more friction, and I'll tell you why.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you why. Then I just completely want to lay out and get your thoughts on this. In the experience that I've had with my entire life, I think of like my father's career in sports, and the times that were the most peaceful are the times where the teams were okay or like rebuilding, right? And then you start getting to Eastern Conference championships, and my dad and Pat Riley are like this.
Oh, yeah.
Or you know, Pat Riley faxes in his resignation, goes to the Miami Heat. Or the Knicks get to the NBA Finals, and Jeff Van Gundy and Ernie Grunfeld are going at each other's. So, like, the Jazz in the early seasons of Quinn Snyder, they're building, everything's fine. Suddenly they're good. Donovan and Rudy are at each other. Quinn and Dennis are at each other. So in a way, the bottom line is getting results. But when you're successful, I think a lot of like alpha competitive males can butt heads a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's be honest. When a head coach is kicking butt, he feels bulletproof.
Yeah, exactly.
He can say whatever he wants.
Right.
You know, I'm laughing. I used to be expression with some of the guys that were 9-3. What a great year we had. 11-1. It was a great year, but my life is different. But that's what the game. You want to compete, and then you deal with it after that.
Right.
Agents calling you wanting this and wanting that. That's just part of the game. But the juice of being on the top beats it all. But you are right on the mark. Mm-hmm. It gets more tense.
Yeah.
Because there's more things you say you can do with. The bag of crap theory I always had is they got a bag of crap, we got a bag of crap, and, we should have two bags of crap to beat them. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden they go, well, at Kentucky, they got this. Oh, my gosh, we went to the finals at Kentucky, and they got this. Oof, I got news for you.
Yeah.
We ain't going to get this.
Yeah,
We're not going to get to that deal.
Yeah.
So, you're right. It's kind of fun, though.
One more thing this segment, then we'll catch a break. It's Morgan's time, so we can be in our feelings about Kyle taking coaches and taking players and what happened behind the scenes and was he forced out, all that stuff. All right, okay, we put that aside. The Morgan Scalley era began this week, officially introduced as the 24th head coach in Utah football history. What sort of head coach do you think Morgan Scalley is going to be?
He's going to be more outgoing. Mm-hmm. I think he'll try. I don't know. I don't want to act like I know the X's and O's of any sport. Sure. I told the coaches I'm never going to get involved in that. I just think he's going to be very energetic, try to rally the community. I can't think of something right now. What I don't like is when people talk about loyalty. He better be the best coach, not the most loyal coach.
For sure.
Because we just find out loyalty is really not my definition of loyalty. Everybody thinks I was loyal to the university. I don't think that's the definition of loyalty. And so I want Morgan to be the best coach, and that's why he's here. And, the dynamic will be like everybody wants. I mean, again, we got to play great defense, be aggressive, and we need to be the same on offense. Mm-hmm. And not be a caretaker, but somehow have a different run. He may be more dynamic on defense now. May feel freedom that he doesn't care, or on offense he may take a ton of risks. And he may want to develop more of a stretch the field passing game.
Yeah.
Now I'm out of my league. You got me trying to talk about the sport and run of plays.
No, all good.
Yeah, when I played quarterback, it was three backs, fake,
yeah.
go around the end.
A little more nuance now?
Yeah, a little more nuance. Call your own plays at 12 years old.
All right, there are a lot of people that believe as a result of Kyle taking coaches and players with him, that people should look at him a little bit differently. We're going to get Dr. Hill's take on that. Dr. Chris Hill is live here at Beer Bar at 161 East, 400 South. 200 South. Come on down and say hi. I want to let you know, League One Volleyball, Salt Lake's first professional volleyball league. The next home game is January the 22nd. Get tickets at lovbsl.com. That's lovbsl.com. More with Dr. Hill coming up next on ESPN 700. Of Dr. Chris Hill live at Beer Bar, a sentence I never thought I'd say, but come on down and say hello. We have the college football playoff semifinal in just less than an hour from right now between Indiana and Oregon. Man, last night was fun between Ole Miss and of course Miami, who goes on to the national championship. Are you watching? Do you still watch college football?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, stuff like this I watch. Yeah.
Okay.
But some games I look forward to tonight. My wife loves it, so she's.
Oh,
good.
good.
We got a game tonight.
Oh, that's
okay.
fun.
All right, okay, honey.
That's fun. Oftentimes if you're in the business of sports and your partner does not enjoy sports, it can provide a little friction there.
Yeah, she was an athlete before Title IX, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Softball pitch and better golf than I ever thought of when she was that age, but she doesn't play now.
She doesn't play anymore.
No, hands and stuff.
Okay.
And she got burnt out.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't got burnt out.
Me neither.
No.
I'm very much addicted to it. Are you hitting on any simulators right now? Are you
No,
trying to keep
I'm
the swing?
not trying to get better. I'm just trying to play with my buddies.
Yeah.
It's the locker room all over again.
Sure.
And I'm going with some guys. I haven't been to Palm Springs in 30 years, but we're going to go.
Good for
to
you.
one of the guys invited me, and so
I love Palm Springs. It's great.
I can't even remember what it was.
It's
been
fun.
so long ago.
Well, I'm jealous because I'm doing the simulator thing. I'm trying to keep my swing fresh and loose for when the sun comes out. A couple of months.
Yeah.
Because the winter months around here can get you down. So I'm glad you're taking that trip.
Well, it's not an enemy to me. I went cross country skiing just before I came down here.
Good for you.
And the inversions kill me, but it's not an enemy because it's not that long for me.
Well, and also, you and I grew up in the Northeast. The winter's there. My son now lives in Connecticut. He works in New York. And after the first winter, he called and said, Dad, now I know why you don't like winters. So winters in Utah they pale in comparison to where we grew up.
35 degrees is a lot different depending on where you are.
My goodness.
35 degrees is, I don't know what it is today, but I'm cross-country skiing. I'm sweating bullets.
There you go. There you go. All right, Dr. Hill is with us. We spent last segment talking about the chaotic news cycle that has landed Kyle Whittingham in Ann Arbor, and Morgan Scalley is the head coach of the Utah football program. The relationship between Kyle and Morgan, of course you hired Kyle, and then Morgan was brought on staff. 2008 was his first full year as a head coach, and they went undefeated, and he kind of joked at his press conference that he thought coaching was easy because they won every game that year. But Morgan was emotional when asked about Kyle. And there are a lot of people that are wondering whether or not Morgan was getting impatient or whatever. It didn't feel like there was friction between the two of them. Do you have any insight there?
I don't, because in my way of dealing with things, I didn't want to know, assistant coach's relationship with this guy or that guy, because really it's mainly rumors. I can't sit down and say, okay, let me watch these guys interact.
Did you feel like that was overstepping your bounds?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Absolutely. I didn't want to deal with who their assistant coaches were. I didn't want to do anything but enjoy them and encourage them, and if there was something I could do to help them, that was it. But I didn't want to get in the middle of any kind of assistant coach to assistant coach, and somebody says this, and so I just wasn't interested in that.
So your role, you hired the head coach, and then you always let the head coach fill out his staff.
Yeah, unless there was something. A couple times I had a couple coaches that wanted to hire somebody that I didn't think was as ethical as we needed.
Okay.
And sometimes I might get into with the head coach, say, Coach, do you have anybody around you that's telling you stuff?
Yeah.
Who do you rely on? And not tell them who to rely on, whatever, but just say you need this kind of thing. Coach.
Yeah.
I think that, or a couple times, I learned the hard way that one time I said something to Coach, this guy's not helping you from what I can tell.
Mm-hmm.
What the heck you talking? And I went, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And because, it's hard because you want to help, but then you realize paying a coach a lot of money to be the coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to let that coach do what that coach does within the rules and ethically. And they live or die with that. I can't, I don't want the coach to say, well, third down, whatever, and you told me to throw a pass here.
Yeah.
It failed. Now you're going to fire me?
Right.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So I was very standoffish with that. Very. It was
interesting.
The ultimate delegation.
Okay.
Is head coach.
Yeah.
The ultimate.
Okay.
And the least people with the least opportunities, the shakiest job in terms of job security is assistant coaches. I'm convinced. Boom, you're gone if it doesn't work.
Just because they're disposable, yeah.
They're disposable,
Yeah.
and The coach has freedom because the AD is not going to tell him to keep somebody if they want to keep him.
Right,
so,
right.
I think assistant coaches have less rights than almost any job in America.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I don't know that I'd ever consider that. So when Urban took the job, when you hired Urban, what was the dynamic that landed him on Kyle? Because we've discussed the whole, like, a coach takes a job, he wants all of his guys to go with him. And Kyle was already here. Urban could have brought his own guy here. Like, tell us about that. Because to this day, they're now great friends. I mean, Urban speaks glowingly about Kyle.
I'm smiling because the answer is real simple. Urban's smart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's rare to maybe take all that, but he was taking his offensive guys, and he was clear that he knew the defense was what was going on.
Yeah. And Kyle was the guy.
Yeah, so it's like, he had, I wrote about this. So we get done with the whole interview process and this and that, and he's going to commit to the job, and he goes, all of a sudden the phone rings at 2 a.m. And it's Urban. I'm thinking, he's still in Salt Lake, and we just had dinner and said, yeah, you're going to be part of the program. Yeah, I love it. Have a toast. Kathy was there. Boom. Mm-hmm. And I get a call at 1 a.m. It's Urban. Thinking, he changed his mind.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
He says, can I get together with Coach Whittingham? I said, well, not at 1. How about it? Kyle gets up early.
Yeah.
I said, but how about 6 in the morning?
Yeah.
Okay, so two of them are meeting in the hotel room. This is when he was flying back, and then he was going to, come in and do the press conference.
Yeah. He's
meeting with Kyle and everything, and then the press conference happens, and they go, what about Kyle Whittingham, Coach? I'm looking forward to meeting with him. And I sat there and go, wait a minute. You just met him 2 hours and 2 days ago. But it was pretty funny. I mean, he could BS pretty well. But yeah, I mean, getting back to your original question, we got off on some fun story, but
it's all good.
Yeah, he's smart.
Yeah,
Urban's smart, and he knew what's going on.
And
any good coach researches like crazy the program, and they're seeing who I want to keep, because they always want to keep somebody, like Kyle did.
Right.
But he didn't want to mess with the defense.
Which, of course, was the right thing to do. I'm just thinking about all these coaches that take head coaching. I mean, Kyle takes Michigan, and Wink Martindale's as DC, and Wink is widely respected in both college and pro football, and now he's out of a job. So I was thinking, if Urban took this job, even though everyone knew Kyle was sharp, was there any consideration of actually replacing that position? Because that would have changed the entire course of Utah football history if it went the other way.
Yeah, I think, I never really thought much about this, but you asked an interesting question with, Urban has a strong ego and bigger now than ever.
Mm-hmm.
God bless him. Still keep in touch. But he let his ego aside a little bit for that.
Okay.
I think.
Interesting.
I think when you think about that, he's going to let the coordinator be the guy that was there.
Yeah.
So he must have thought a lot of him, A.
Yeah.
And B, he must have said, you know what? I'm going to win.
Right,
That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I don't care who's there.
Well, there's brilliant symmetry between the two of them.
Yeah.
Watching that season and how dialed in they both were in their respective silos. I mean, what was it like to witness that? Because it worked so well. Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah.
I like to watch it, and, as time goes on, you kind of watch these coaches, and the head coach is an offensive guy. Take a lot of risks on offense.
Yeah.
Who cares? The defense is in a bad position. Yeah. Or they got the, Morgan Scally coming in, and is he an offensive guy or a defense? Coordinators are going to fight over him, or the head coach this way or that way. You know, it's kind of funny, And so, to watch those two interact, it was like, Kyle's gonna have the best darn defense we got, coach, and Urban's gonna say our offense is gonna score like crazy.
Yeah, and they did. That was I'll never forget that season. It was so fun.
Yeah.
Here's a random one for you.
Okay.
Obviously, you made Kyle the head coach after Urban left. Was there any discussion about Kyle joining Urban in Florida? None, not at all.
No, people thought differently, but once, we had such a great program. If you're not going to hire a coordinator from the BCS Buster, what's the guy worth? It ruined his career, maybe.
Yeah.
Why did Chris not hire this guy?
Right.
So we moved as fast as we possibly could with Kyle, and he had the BYU thing. So BYU, that would have never been an issue. Never.
Okay.
Never.
Yeah, I was just curious. So if I'm understanding correctly, you get the phone call from Urban, hey, I'm taking Florida, and you hang up and call Kyle right away. Say, hey, you don't.
Not like that.
But
not like
that's like the general vibe.
No, the general vibe is that we had to open it up, supposedly.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And talked to a couple people, but, President and I met quickly with Kyle. That memory part of it is, I just remember it all seemed so fast and so natural.
Yeah.
But, we had the BYU thing in the middle, so we had to work fast.
Right.
And truth be known, the offensive coordinator, God bless his heart, Mike Sanford wasn't going to be my guy.
Right.
So it was either, and I kind of had some other things, but then I thought, if I don't hire this guy now, when would somebody be in that position?
Right.
And so, but it was so many different things going in my mind now that it was like, boy, just fire drill. That's what it was. It was a fire drill. And that whole month of December was a fire drill.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
Oh, I'll never forget it. And we had Jim Herman, the former BYU defensive lineman, on the show, and Jim was Kyle's teammate. And we had Jim on the show to start the year. And I had never heard this before, but Jim told the story. He was in New York, and he was with Steve Young. And Jim and Steve were in a limo on the way to a ceremony. Steve was being honored because, of course, he was. So they were on the way to a dinner, and Jim's phone rang, and it was Kyle. And Kyle said, I'm coming home.
Yeah.
Kyle told his ex-teammates he had taken the BYU job. And I never knew. I knew that it got to the finish line, but I never knew it got to the point where Kyle himself was telling other people that he had taken the BYU job.
Well, he if my recollection, I'm giving away all my stories now. My recollection is pretty clearly that he called me at 7 o'clock and said, I'm going to take the job.
Take the BYU job. Okay.
And I said, well, I got to get started now. And do you think you can recruit better players at BYU and Ken, Utah? But I got to get going.
Yep.
And he said, can I call you back in a couple hours? And then he called back, and I think it's got to do nothing with me, but all with the Utah players. I think, I shouldn't say nothing. I think it helped make him think.
Yeah.
And when he said, let me wait, I didn't know, I thought that was the least good, but I had to get going.
Yeah.
I had to make phone calls and stuff, and I didn't know. And Kathy said when he says he's calling back in 2 hours, she goes, he didn't say that to you because he wasn't really thinking again about being at Utah.
Right.
But I from what I understand, the guys on the team really, really made it hard for him to want to leave Utah to go to BYU.
Okay. What did you do for the 2 hours while you were waiting for him to call back?
Came down to beer bar, had a good time. No, just called some people and sniffed around and did that kind of thing.
Well, this is fascinating because this is really the entire course of the program would have changed, Dr. Hill. Yes. If I've always said two things about this generation of Ute football ascension. Pac-12 invite, Kyle saying no to BYU and yes to Utah. To me, those are the two seminal moments.
Yeah, I obviously, and Heinrich wasn't a bad seminal moment.
For sure. I'm just from football specifically.
Yeah. But I don't think we're unique in that way. I think you look back at different historical places, like maybe hiring John Wooden made a difference. I don't know, or a little bit. Maybe Nick Saban.
Yeah.
I don't know if they didn't have Nick Saban, what would have happened?
Sure. Yeah.
All his guys became head coaches, and where would Georgia be now with that? So
right.
I think sometimes we talk about Utah, this and that. We're more like everybody else than people think we are.
But also sometimes you make the wrong hire is my point.
Oh, yeah. I get you.
Yeah.
Oh, it could be total. Yeah, it would be totally different, and it could be bad.
And you had a track record of making the right hires, and Kyle clearly was the right hire. But there are plenty of coaches that are hired by ADs, and the AD is like, this is my guy.
Yeah.
And then within a year or two, it's like, I made the wrong call. And there's not a sport where the right or wrong decision, in my opinion, is magnified more than college football.
No.
You get the right guy, here we go. You get the wrong guy, and it sets you back.
Yeah, there's no question. Because they have, the reason why they get paid a lot is because they do determine the program.
For sure.
And that determines a lot of money. And, their success is tied to so many things, or their non-success, and it's a crapshoot. Let's be honest.
For sure.
There's times you hire somebody you think they're the greatest in the world. And I used to say, like, when people could talk about hiring people, I mean, you get it right 7 out of 10 times.
Oof.
That's unbelievable.
For sure.
Then I tell them, okay, you got an 18-year-old kid you're recruiting.
Right.
What's the odds of 7 out of 10 there?
Yeah.
Maybe 3 out of 10?
A whole nother variable, for sure.
Yeah.
A whole different variable.
That's what makes it AI will help us figure that out.
Well, let's hope so. Well, actually, we don't want AI taking all of our jobs, Dr. Hill.
No.
You referenced money, and, of course, the sport has changed. That's why oftentimes, when I was breaking it down earlier this week about Urban leaving, taking his staff, Kyle leaving, taking his staff, but it is a different game in a number of different ways. And, the announcement came down a few weeks ago that Utah has consummated a private equity deal with Ocho Capital. The number that's out there is $500 million. Now, I have been scolded, so I have to be very clear. This is not a $500 million check that's being written by one private equity firm. This is a combination of Ocho Capital and donors here in our market that have been allowed to buy into the product. And do they get equity? Do they get a return on the other side? Have they been asked simply to donate and you're not going to see anything on the other end? I don't know because we don't have the contract. The Tribune has filed a grammar request to get the details. But when it comes to the budgeting portion of this money, Taylor Randall is the president of the University of Utah. So I think people that just love football are expecting $500 million to be infused into the program. And I don't know this to be true, but Taylor, as a businessman, my guess is going to use a portion of these funds to support the business school or support the hospital. Like, when it comes to these budgeting conversations, you've been behind these closed doors. What do you think that's going to sound like?
Yeah, there's always a conflict on campus. Ours was pretty good that way about what does athletics get and what does the rest of the university get? Because we would make our own money. We get a little supplement from the university, and it was our money. Well, if it gets that big, we got into the Pac-12, it was like faculty were thinking we could help give them money.
Right.
Whoa. But now I can see them. When you say $500 million, I by no means know about the equity stuff.
Sure.
I mean, I don't want to be arrogant enough to think I know that. But, when you hear that number, it makes you think. And when you don't know exactly, when your mind starts wondering about what's this mean, you're a faculty guy saying, where am I? Did the Brinks truck come up for me? Do they have Brinks trucks anymore?
I believe they do.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I still think that's the thing.
Okay, I don't know. I say these things. My staff used to make fun of me because I'd say something. They go, who's Yogi Berra? And so, but anyway, I think that's going to be a challenge because everybody in the university, it's a tough time for universities. Yeah. And, hopefully, if it's as big and they involve the rest of the university and trying to help generate money, then maybe it can be for more people. But I'm talking at school now. I really am.
Yeah, because we're just having a conversation because nobody knows the details.
Yeah.
When it comes to the chasm between academia and athletics, it's nothing new. And in our ecosystem, we tend to overstate the importance of sports because that's what we do for a living. But I'm very aware that there's an entire existence outside of the realm of sports, and there are a lot of people that don't even like sports. Maybe the English teacher at the U doesn't give a rip about football. Did you run into any jealousy, hostility from people on the academic side that felt like athletics was getting preferred treatment?
I think that yeah. I think a third of I used to say about a third, maybe more, like athletics. A third in the middle. It's good. They support it, but it's not like they're crazy about it. Yeah. And there's others that just resent it.
Yeah.
And I always tell everybody, I think at Cal there's 10% that like athletics and 90% that hate it.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. And so you have to kind of understand there's going to be groups that are mad at you no matter what on campus. And they don't think the money, and they have illusions of this and that. And, one of my bone of contentions is that, you can't just be prejudiced about this group. Get to know the group.
Yeah.
Don't think they don't want to think everybody's cheating, the kids don't go to class. Well, you're a professor. If they go to your class and you give them an easy grade, that's your fault, not mine.
Right.
And so that end was always there at every campus in the country. Boom. End of discussion. Everybody.
Yeah, and ultimately, I would imagine, and I don't know this to be the case, like the campus now, I live close to campus. The school doesn't look like it did when I went there in 1998. You know, like, and I think the Pac-12 inclusion, the revenue generated, and then the attention and exposure. Fox 13 did a piece on the 2 Rose Bowls that Utah went to, and the estimate was it was about 36 million eyes exposed to Utah that never would have seen it. It's just free marketing, free exposure.
Sure.
It leads to more kids enrolling in school. And then ultimately, it's like the rising tide lifts all boats, right? Like athletics does go a long way in supporting the whole institution.
Yeah, I think it does. I don't want to overplay it or underplay it. It does in terms of visibility, interest in students.
Yeah.
You know, but let's be honest. We didn't have the medical center.
Right.
Ain't no Pac-12.
Yep.
Okay, I got news for you.
For sure.
I always used to say that, and I was happy when Huntsman or Spence would give us money and they gave 10x to the medical center and less, I'd say thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, the medical center we didn't have that, we wouldn't have been a ball game.
Yeah.
So don't overplay athletics as this, but it does influence, especially applications to schools, I think.
Yeah.
Kids are watching it and saying whatever, and I think Alabama has done better over the last 10 years. People from north are coming down to be warmer and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, but it does help. There's no, and the heartbeat, I always said the heartbeat of campus was better. That's what I used to say.
100%.
You kind of walk with a little better bounce to your step.
100%.
That was the whole deal. I noticed that all the time.
Yeah.
When we first got into Pac-12.
Yeah, and I spoke at an alumni event at my old fraternity about 2 months ago, and I'm introducing myself to all these kids that are rushing, and like 90% of them are out of state.
Yeah.
It's California. Like, it's a different experience now.
Yeah. My son tells me when he's in California, he works in the L.A. area, he says he does see more jerseys.
Yeah.
And the thing that I enjoyed, one thing is Smiths used to put BYU and Utah things there.
Yeah.
A lot more Utah now. That made me feel good.
For sure.
Not
As it
against
should.
BYU, but against saying us. I don't want to get in that discussion.
No, all good.
No, everything's good.
We'll end on this. Alex Jensen's my guy.
Sure.
Love
Yep.
Al. It's my guy. Pulling hard for him. They don't have the horses.
No.
I've watched a number of games. They've got a couple of good one-on-one offensive guards. They don't have big bodies. It's tough to keep up. The Big 12 is the best college basketball conference this year. BYU's in town tomorrow. Kevin's got a really good team. Just give me your thoughts. I'm pulling for him. I just think it's going to be a long year.
Yeah, I'm miserable until the game starts.
Yeah.
Okay? Because I know they're tough and it's going to be hard. But I was delusional whenever the ball was kicked off or tipped off. I always
Sure.
thought the Utes were going to win.
Sure.
And so I'll be delusional for 2 hours, but I don't want to disparage the Utes. But we all know they got an unbelievable team. That AJ is like ridiculous.
Man.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
And this Sanders kid is
Yeah.
damn good
He's
too.
a pro. He's an NBA guy.
Yeah, he's a pro. So
Yeah.
any team you have has got to have a couple pros.
Right.
So, in terms of Alex, I know he can coach them up.
Yep.
I know he's good in the locker room. I know he'll be good with the community, and he'll be good recruiting kids.
Yeah.
Does he have enough money to do that? And is there some way the portal thing can be a little mitigated, because that would give Alex a chance to develop kids?
Yeah.
When Rick had his deal, if he lost Andre after a year and Keith after a year, but he had him and was able to develop him and be a coach.
Yeah.
And so Alex can coach him up if they can stay a little while. And he had a real bad break with his I don't consider this Alex's first year because there's such a mess when you come in.
Sure.
I told that with Larry.
Yeah.
He had nobody.
Yeah.
And so, he needs to, and his best player, the one they spent the most money on, is the one that got hurt.
Right.
And he's a big guy, and we
Yep.
don't rebound well, so
Yep.
I'm getting maybe too technical. But, I think people got to understand that if we can come in sixth, I'm not we anymore. The Utes can come in sixth.
It can be weave because it's Al.
Yeah, it's Al. That's
Yeah.
right. He texted me back. I love it.
Yeah, he's the best.
I don't see well with Al because I'm
with you.
favored.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So I'm not very objective. But if we can come in fifth or sixth in the league in 3 years or whatever, we're in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
And you got a chance do some damage. That was the deal. We said, let's get in the NCAA tournament, do some damage, or at least in February you're on the bubble and it means something.
For sure.
So I think a couple years from now that will work, especially, like I said, if the money, and because Alec has all the other qualities of which, I told you how I feel about that, but, if the money thing can work out, and if somehow you can keep people that's a strategic part of it.
Yep.
Spend all your money on the top 3 guys, and just hope.
Yeah. Well, in basketball, that could work.
Yeah, I think it could.
You get 2 to 3 big-time studs and figure out the rest.
Yeah.
You keep teasing the book, sir. When are we going to get it?
We'll talk next. We'll talk maybe next month we're on.
Okay.
I'm pretty darn close with the manuscript, and we got a cover page,
Good.
in the title, 31 years on row 1, on
Love
the
it.
front row.
Love it.
And so I appreciate you asking. I got a lot of fun little stories.
Oh,
like
can't
I was
wait.
sharing with you.
Yeah, I
And
can't wait.
It's totally. It started off before COVID. They were going to do oral history and blah blah blah. And then Liz and I talked. Let's just do these stories, memorialize them, send them to the library. And then I met with. Be real quick. In the summer, one summer I was with the basketball committee came, and Iowa State, Arizona, North Carolina. They're ADs. They're all sitting there with me, Bubba and
Awesome.
Greg and Pollard, Jamie Pollard, and we're talking. And they're saying, Chris, my guy wrote a book, but it's all about leadership.
Mm-hmm.
That's boring.
Yeah.
He says, you had Rick and Urban, 3 different leagues. You were an Irish Catholic, left-wing Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
Never knew where Utah was. And at 37, you were the AD. They said, you got a story.
For sure.
And you've been there 3 years. 31. So who else has been there? So the whole thing, we're adding up, and they said, you have colorful guys. So just write it. And it's mainly for, I'm serious, it's for my family.
Yeah.
And for people that know me.
For sure.
And would be interested. So it's not about, I have no expectations of, it'd be nice if people were interested.
Oh, I'll be
hope they
glued to
are.
it. I can't wait.
I hope they
Yeah,
are. But, it's been a fun process. And I go back and think of things. And I'm not a good dancer or singer or whatever, but I remember stories.
For sure.
We talk here, and
Yeah.
I remember stories.
Yeah.
And some of them were so fun. And the only one I'm beating up is Larry Scott,
Mm-hmm.
Greg Hughes from the legislature, and one of our vice presidents who's gone.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't want. That's what Frank Layton said to me. He says,
Yeah.
don't write a book if you're going to beat anybody up.
Yeah.
But if you want to write your memoirs or something like that, and it's. I say this a million times. This is not an ego thing. It's something I just wanted to do and pass it on to my grandkids, and
Sure.
they could just read about it and stuff like that. And it was, and it's all not like everything was great.
Of course.
I
yeah.
screwed
Yeah.
up times.
Sure,
A
sure.
lot of times, screwed up with BYU. We had a swimming incident.
Yep.
I don't want to stay away from those.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's important to understand that the mistakes were made.
Yeah.
And own up to them and maybe give a little background on them, but not act like I'm trying to make bad stories good.
Sure.
I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, Kyle Whittingham, 31 years at Utah. Chris Hill, 31 years at Utah. You might be the only 2, right? I mean, it's quite a tenure.
I'll tell you what, it is a rare deal. And time went on, I really enjoyed Kyle more and more and more. And I think we both kind of went into our roles better. When I left, that felt really good. I mean, it's corny, but when they honored me at halftime, Kyle ran out from the thing.
Yeah.
Sideline gave me a hug, and I thought, Kyle,
great. Yeah.
you're in the game now. How could you even think of that?
No, it's great.
And that kind of made me smile. That
It
was
should.
really important
It
to me.
should.
It was really important.
Well,
So,
look,
thanks for having me.
We'll set you loose. Thanks, Dr.
Yeah,
Hill.
thanks a lot.
All right, Dr. Chris Hill. The book coming up, so stay tuned for that. We're live at Beer Bar. We'll catch a break, get to the 5 o'clock hour of the show. Coming up next right here on ESPN 700. All right, what's going on? Drive at 5 time, Friday afternoon. Happy Friday to all of you. Congratulations. Weekend time, you made it. That first week back after the new year is always, man, it's a tough ask. So happy Friday to you. If you were having a tough time getting back at it this week, you made it. Hey, what's up, man? Live today at Beer Bar, downtown Salt Lake City, Utah, and we're getting ready for the college football playoff semifinal between Oregon and Indiana. So come on down and say hello. Here's the deal. Coming up in about 20 minutes. So if you're close to downtown and you're looking for tickets for the Utah BYU basketball game tomorrow night, make your way to Beer Bar because we're having you enter to win. And I can promise you, if you come on down right now and enter to win, you're probably going to win the tickets because as of now, we just don't have very many entries. So you've got about 20 minutes to do that, okay, here at Beer Bar at 161 East, 200 South. We're right inside if you just walk in. And we're getting ready for the college football playoff semifinal. This is an awesome spot to watch any of your favorite sports. Hopefully the college football playoff semifinal tonight between Indiana and Oregon holds the candle to what we saw last night in just an awesome game between Ole Miss and Miami. Miami, of course, advances on. And in 10 days, Miami will play for the national championship in their backyard. As the national championship this year will be played in Miami. Will they play Oregon or will they play Indiana? Now, of course, Oregon and Indiana, this is a rematch of a game that took place in October in Eugene at Autzen Stadium, where Indiana was able to get that win 30-20. Indiana is a slight favorite, but the majority of the money, at least as of late, has been going towards the Oregon Ducks. So that game comes your way in just about 20 minutes from right now. And come on down to Beer Bar and have a good time. Get your weekend started out the right way and have a chance to win tickets to see Utah and BYU play a little basketball tomorrow. 8 o'clock tip time at the Huntsman Center. Let me just give one more plea to Ute Nation out there. If you're free tomorrow night, please roll up to the Huntsman Center because I can promise you we will have a lot of BYU blue up at the Huntsman Center and hoping to balance that out with some Utah red. It's going to be a long year for the Utes. Alex Jensen in charge of the rebuild and need some horses, need some better players. There's no doubt about that. So some transfer portal news came down today, and of course everybody wants the transfer portal news. Jonah Lea'ea is going to Michigan. He's going to play for Coach Witt at Michigan. We talked about this earlier. As of now, unless I missed something, because, you know, I have been doing a radio show for 3+ hours now, Jonah Lea'ea as well as John Henry Daly have made it official that they are going to play for Michigan next year. The reports are that we're going to hear something quickly about it being official that J.J. Buchanan will leave the Utah program to join Kyle Whittingham in Ann Arbor as well. Smith Snowden visited Ann Arbor this week. He will take a stop at Notre Dame, and he will also take a stop at Oregon before deciding his next stop, I should say. Te'o Johnson, the first piece of Te'o Johnson news came down today as we're wondering where he's going to land. And the reports are he will visit UCLA and Oregon in the coming days at this point. Ryan Gunderson has been hired as Utah's new quarterbacks coach. He's coached quarterbacks at Oregon State, UCLA, and San Jose State. He knows Kevin McGivern from the San Jose State days. And, we'll continue to bring any news to you as it comes to us. It was announced yesterday that Dallas Vakalahi is going to end up at Penn State, a rising young star on the defensive line. And the sad reality is, if you're a Ute fan, with the graduations of several players along both the offensive and defensive line, and then Caleb Lomu testing the NFL draft waters, Spencer Fano and Logan Fano, and then Jonah Lea'ea as well as John Henry Daly taking off to Michigan. The offensive and defensive lines are pretty much going to have to be rebuilt. Now, Cash Dillon has announced that he is coming back, promising young defensive lineman, I believe from Corner Canyon. So that's the latest on the transfer portal news concerning the Utes. L.J. Martin is going to come back and play for BYU. Of course, Bear Bachmeier made it official as well. So we have a week left in the transfer portal, and we'll bring any information that comes to us to you as soon as we can get it. Brooks Koepka has applied for reinstatement to the PGA Tour. We talked a little golf earlier today, and the Utah Jazz were able to get a win last night over the Dallas Mavericks, trade deadline style in the NBA. Ja Morant apparently is on the trading block. The Memphis Grizzlies willing to listen to offers for him. Zion Williamson rumored to be on the trading block. And, of course, we saw Trae Young traded to the Washington Wizards yesterday. So a lot going on. Busy Friday show. We'll catch a break. And don't forget, we are about 15 minutes away from the college football playoff semifinal between Oregon and Indiana. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. Toby Keith sending you in your weekend. Is that correct, Porter? Is that what we got?
Oh, man.
What do we got?
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Little Alan Jackson.
Oh, well, of course, the famous Alan Jackson, little-known Alan Jackson fact from Texas, right?
I actually am not certain of that. I don't think so.
I know nothing about Alan Jackson, but Porter's a big country music fan, so we're going to send you into your weekend, a little good mood style with some country music. Always love being here at Beer Bar. Ty Burrell is in the house. If you want to come down and watch the college football playoff semifinal, Ty and his brother, we got Rich and Duncan in the house. They're massive Oregon fans, so we're having an Oregon watch party. So Ty Burrell is here. Celebrity sighting, Modern Family, everyone's favorite dad. You guys know Ty. Come on down and watch the college football playoff semifinal at Beer Bar at 161 East, 200 South. 72 different beers on tap. If you're not a drinker, they've got, soda, mineral water, all the stuff. Brand new menu featuring a great breakfast sandwich you can get all day, a cotton bottom garlic burger, pastrami sandwich, turkey sandwich, French dip sandwich, and obviously their world famous brats and fries. It's an awesome spot if you're looking for a place to watch Oregon and Indiana, which just kicks off in a matter of moments. Brand new sponsor on the program. I want to give a special shout out to Wasatch Wagyu. Start off 2026 right with a juicy prime cut of Wasatch Wagyu beef right out of Heber, Utah. All the cows are bred locally, and they produce some of the best Wagyu beef around. Talking premium, legit Wagyu beef, New York steaks, 100% Wagyu burger beef, roast, tomahawk steaks, fillets, and now premium Wasatch Wagyu beef jerky in a bunch of flavors. Porter and I got hooked up with some beef jerky. It is so good. And by the way, a very healthy snack if you're looking to kind of make your way through the day. Shout out to Greg and Stacy, the owners. They really know what they're doing, and we're hooking you up. So if you've listened to the show, they've been on the show as a client for about a month. Up until this week, they were giving you a 10% discount. Well, the ante has been upped because now you get 25% off of all of their menu items at wasatchwagyu.com. So pick out what you want, get a limited time discount on their Wagyu beef of 25% off. Just type in ESPN 25 at checkout and get 25% off your entire order. Enhance your new year with Wasatch Wagyu at wasatchwagyu.com. All right, Porter, bottom line is I'm taking Oregon to win tonight.
Okay. Is that because of where you're sitting?
No, actually. And it may be because I recently have made my way into some prediction markets and could have an incentive here.
There you go.
Oregon, Indiana. Indiana is a 3-point favorite. The over-under is 50.5. Indiana beat Oregon 30-20, and that snapped Oregon's 18-game winning streak at Autzen Stadium. So I am going to take Oregon to win in a close one. I'm going to say Oregon 28, Indiana 27. What do you say?
I'm going to go the other way. I've been given zero reasons, or if I'm a opposing coach, say zero weaknesses in the game plan for the Indiana Hoosiers. There's just nothing besides wanting Oregon a little bit as a former Pac-12 friend that would lead me to believe that they win this football game. Indiana, as you mentioned, they won 30-20 in I think week 7 against Oregon. Indiana is the only team that has won in Autzen in the last 2 years. So now that they're on a neutral playing field, I don't have any reason to bet against Kurt Cignetti and the Hoosiers. I'm going to go 31-24 for Indiana.
Hard to argue with any of that reasoning. Every time I've watched them, because initially they get off to this hot start, and I'm just a little skeptical. I'm like, I don't know, man. And I will admit my bias, be like, Indiana can't be good at football.
Right.
And then you watch them, they're just so clean. They have one fumble all year. It was the 18th play from scrimmage. They haven't fumbled once. They've had zero missed, bobbled snaps. They don't drop passes. They're as disciplined as any college football team I've seen in quite some time. So anyway, last night was awesome. Hopefully tonight's awesome. Don't forget, wild card NFL action starts tomorrow, goes throughout the weekend on Sunday, then culminates with a Monday Night Football game between the Texans and the Steelers. All right, Porter, before we get out of here, what comes our way on a Monday edition of the show?
Monday edition of the program. Our guy Tony Parks in studio. We'll go all over the map with Tony Parks. Our friend Sammy Mora of Ute Zone will drop by to give us the latest on the portal and the state of the Utes. And then we'll check in probably on the college football side, and hopefully a voice of the Utes after BYU and Utah meet on the hardwood.
Yes, good reminder. Ute fans, I will make one more plea. I'd never enjoy when the Huntsman Center is laced with BYU blue, and my fear is that's going to be the case tomorrow night. So a lot of people talk about how they can support Alex Jensen, get Utah basketball where it used to be. Just show up, wear red, and cheer. It's going to be a tough one. BYU's really good. Utah's rebuilding. But we will say goodnight. Special thank you today to Robert Johnson, Howard Beck, Paul Pugmire, and Dr. Chris Hill. Great hour-long conversation with Dr. Hill. If you missed any of it, go to the website, which is ESPN700sports.com. Download our mobile app and take us on the go. ESPN 700 app is available in the App Store and the Google Play Store. Then finally, for what we do in our space every afternoon, for 4 full hours, check out the podcast page. It's called The Drive with Spence Checketts. It's available wherever you get your shows. Subscribe, rate, review, say nice things in the comments. Give us all the stars. It helps. For Porter and Cynthia, my onside tech, I'm Spence saying goodnight. Have a great weekend, everybody. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. We'll talk to you on a Monday edition of The Drive. And as always, you can catch that right here on ESPN 700.